It's a brand new day. Welcome to Christmas week. It's another Monday God has blessed us with. From us to you, we love you. Thank you for making the time to be with us this morning. Coming up shortly, we'll be serving you the news. And right after that, we'll be joined by the Executive Director, Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brahima. As always, on a Monday morning, he's going to be our guest. Well, right after the news review, we can't help ourselves, can I? And of course, we're going to be talking about the Mundial and Argentina. We, yes, are going to be doing that in sports. Finally, Lionel Messi wins the trophy. And the question is, what next from here for the teams that lost? We'll be telling you a bit more about that in sports. But then we get into our big stories. And then it is the opposition NDC, which has elected its national officers to handle the affairs, steer the affairs of the party for the next 4 years, and of course, lead them to victory in 2024. That's their aim. The team has former General Secretary Johnson Esiedun Ketia leading the pack as national chairman. Former Member of Parliament for Ketu South, Fifi Kwete, is also General Secretary of the party. And in all, about 25 executives have been given the nod to wrest power from the governing NPP. Today, we analyze Saturday's events, the upsets, everything that happened, and what this means for the umbrella fraternity. But also coming up, Ghana is caught between the devil and the deep blue sea because it is stuck in a diplomatic row with Burkina Faso over comments made by our president on the deployment of the Wagner Group in Burkina Faso. The president says the operations of the mercenary group poses a threat to our northern borders and the security of the state. In response, Burkina Faso has withdrawn their ambassador from Ghana. Now, what does this mean for diplomacy and security between the two countries? We speak to experts on that matter. We also have for you, since it's a Monday, another installment of Drive Safe. And of course, as always, the show is all about you. So share your thoughts with us in the course of the show. The hashtag is AMShow, and you can send us your thoughts in the course of our live stream. And at the tail end, give us a call. Let's talk Lionel Messi winning the World Cup. Let's talk about Burkina Faso, and let's talk about the NDC. All right here on the AM Show. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Stay with me for the news. Up next. Welcome to the news on the AM Show. 5 years ago, she almost died, but for the timely intervention of a JoyNews vehicle, which was used as an ambulance to carry her from the deprived town of Tadando in the Bandai district to a health facility to deliver. The JoyNews team found her riding dangerously on a motorbike while bleeding. After transporting her for safe delivery, Idonkea's husband named their son Kwabena Joy to honor JoyNews. Jojo Kobina reports that Kwabena Joy is doing well and has started school.
5 years ago, a lady from Tadando in the Pandai district of the northern region went into labor at night. But because of the terrible nature of the road linking the hospital, which is about 10 kilometers away, her family decided to try home delivery. But the baby would not come out. So the young lady, named Idon Kerr, started bleeding profusely throughout the night. On her journey to the hospital during the day on a motorbike, we found them. She could not balance properly on the motorbike, and Idon Kerr winched in agonizing pain. Confronted with a moral duty, we abandoned our journalism exploits and transported her to the hospital. The road was riddled with potholes, and anytime our vehicle slammed into a pothole, Idon Kerr scowled in pain. She successfully delivered a baby boy after a cesarean section.
Kwabena Joy.
A family named the boy Kwabena Joy to honor JoyNews. Kwabena Joy is now 5 years and currently in kindergarten. He actively plays in class, but recalled when he saw the news team. The boy's father, named Jagri, was excited and said he never dreamt would visit him again.
Oh, I am happy. Very happy. I was really in trouble and in hot waters when I was sending my wife to deliver 5 years ago. But when I saw your team with a vehicle, I told myself that I have met my God who is here to rescue me. I named my boy Joy, and indeed my boy has brought me indescribable joy.
Idonker now has a daughter. She said without JoyNews, she may have lost her child and even died.
This is the boy and the girl. By God's grace, I'll add more. It wasn't easy 5 years ago. I was not conscious of what was happening around me. I was in pain. I don't know what would have happened if you guys had not come to our rescue. I am very grateful.
The single story of Kwabena Joy has brought multiple impacts to the Pandai district. The Evangelical Church of Ghana Hospital, where Idonker delivered, now has an anesthetic machine. The machine was donated after JoyNews highlighted what Idonker went through to deliver through cesarean section without using an anesthetic machine. Idonker is grateful to government for constructing roads in the town, but also wants other arterial roads such as the Pandai Salaga Road constructed.
We want government to construct more roads, and also we want a health center close to our community so we can easily commute.
This is indeed the power of a single story. Jojo Kobna, JoyNews.
Now, work has begun on a 28-kilometer water distribution line to provide water for residents of Tumu and its environs. The water system constructed decades ago no longer produces sufficient water for these residents who have had to rely on water from unhygienic sources. Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam now reports.
The only time an attempt to expand the Tumu water supply system was some 5 years ago. The Tumu water supply system was first constructed over 60 years ago to cater for less than 3,000 residents. Despite the continuous increase in the population of residents, coupled with the sprawling nature of the town over the years, there have not been any significant expansion. The Tumu township has therefore outgrown the current water supply system, according to Deputy Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources, Isaku.
The transmission lines is just 7.33 kilometers, and so most households are not having access to the transmission lines. And the few that even have access to the transmission lines, the water production capacity is quite low, and so in a week, some get 2 times in a week, some get 3 times in a week, and some even get water at very odd hours. Your side can get water. They can start giving you water at 1 a.m., 3 a.m., and it makes it difficult for them to wake up at that time to get water.
The situation has forced some well-to-do members of the community to drill and mechanize boreholes to sell to the public. Others who could not afford it has to go back to their old unyielding wells around the Tumu Dam for water. The quality of water here cannot be guaranteed, as they sometimes compete with animals for water at the dam.
Now we are going to do a transmission line of about 28.33 kilometers. So from 7.33 to 28 point something is quite high, and so every household will be captured, every institution will be captured. We are going to develop new fire hydrants. Currently, the service take water from ordinary pumps, and it is quite difficult from the dam. But with the fire hydrants strategically located in the municipality capital, enough water can be obtained by the fire service to do their work and all that.
Isaku, who also doubles as a Sisala East Member of Parliament, speaking at a groundbreaking ceremony for the over 18 million Ghana cedis project, entreated members of the community to cooperate with the contractors to finish the project on time.
It's supposed to start immediately, and it's supposed to be completed in 1.5 years. And I have every confidence that it will be done. All what we need is the cooperation of the community, because some of the the tanks that will be constructed. They've located places that you need to negotiate with people who privately own the places. Some of both the production lines and then the transmission lines will go through some facilities that you will need to negotiate. So with the cooperation of the community for negotiation to settle these kinds of disagreements that are likely to come up, we should be able to finish within the time frame of 1.5 years.
The project, upon completion, will have 28 kilometers of distribution lines, 14 kilometers of transmission lines, and cater for 20,000 residents for the next 30 years. Managing Director of POMTEC, Osman Shanoun Kulendi, is one of 2 contractors tasked to execute the project.
Our component of the project is about 8.1 million Ghana cedis, as I mentioned earlier. And the key features are developing the water sources with solar pumps, delivering the water through transmission line, which is 14 kilometers to the town.
Now, in our next story, authorities at the University of Health and Allied Sciences are asking for financial support from government to expand its basic school. Vice-Chancellor Professor Lydia Aziato indicates the expansion will enable the school to meet admission requests and deliver a technologically driven curriculum to the pupils. Here's Fred Kwame-Asari's report.
The University of Health and Allied Sciences Basic School was established in 2021 to serve as an educational facility for children of the staff of the university. However, due to the quality of teaching delivered, there was a mad rush by residents for admission.
We expect to expand our infrastructure because the applications for admission so high, so overwhelming that we need to expand our infrastructure. We hope that by the next 5 years would have been 3 streams.
Speaking at the second graduation ceremony, the UHA's Vice Chancellor, Professor Lydia Aziato, appealed for the provision of a library, an ICT lab, an office, an official vehicle, a bus, and a sporting facility.
We all know that the world has moved on and we are using ICT in our training, our teaching and learning. If we want a better tomorrow for our children, I dare say that each classroom here should have devices for technology-driven teaching and learning for our students.
The Volta Regional Minister, Dr. Archibald Lecha, promised to lobby the relevant institutions towards expanding the school.
And I've listened to the Vice Chancellor make some requests. As I travel to Accra today, I'll try and see if I can arrange some library books for the school. And then we see how to get on with the others. So if we receive a special request from the school, a written request from the school, we promise to act on them.
The acting Volta Regional Director, Dr. Sena Nukwesi Jokoto, gave the pupils some guidelines to become people of substance in the future.
Some of the instructions from your parents may seem very unpleasant today. They will ask you to put off your TV and put your tablets away or put your footballs away and go and learn. You may not be happy, but just know that it's for a good reason.
Now, the New Patriotic Party in the Savelugu constituency of the Northern region has debunked claims by the opposition National Democratic Congress that the newly constructed Savelugu rice processing factory is non-functional. The NDC, at a news conference 3 weeks ago, among other things, accused the NPP government of peddling falsehoods over the functionality and employment status of the Savelugu rice factory. But the NPP has fought the claims, explaining why the factory isn't running. Martin Abugri now reports.
Addressing a press conference in Savelugu, the constituency communications officer of the New Patriotic Party, Abubakar Abdul Ghaffar, explained why the factory has no electricity.
That the factory has no power and is therefore dysfunctional. Our response is this. Conveniently, The NDC refused to acknowledge the fact that power to the rice plant is nearing completion. I repeat, they conveniently refuse to acknowledge the fact that the lies to the factory is nearing completion. Power to the plants was previously and has therefore started failing the rice factory. Frantic efforts have been made by the Sabelo Municipal Authority to restore reliable and dependable power to the facility. As we speak, a new transformer has been secured and its installation is almost done.
Mr. Gafaro also said they claim by the NDC that the factory has no single worker nor beneficiary.
Well, in our next story, the Forestry Commission says plans are underway to establish 3 more zoos in the country to help boost tourism. The 3 zoos, according to the Commission, will be established in Tamale, Koforidua, and Takrady. Here's another report put together by Martina Bugri.
Various duties. It was also to review the Commission's activities for 2022. Speaking at the event, the Chief Executive Officer of the Forestry Commission, John Alute, said the Koforidua and Tamale zoo sites have been identified and the necessary design being worked on.
We plan to establish 3 more zoos, one in Koforidua, another one Tamale here, and then Takrady. The Koforidua site has been identified and it has been fenced whilst we are waiting for approval from the Environmental Protection Authority. The Tamale site has been identified not too far from this place, and then the designs are being prepared. Once the designs are ready, we will do the necessary consultations and then start putting in the practical, the cases and then the infrastructure that is required to have the zoo up and running. In Takrady, we have a bit of problem in terms of the release of the land.
The CEO said the Commission spent 69% of its total budget of $384 million.
Well, it is 6 days to Christmas, and the beautiful lights on the principal streets of Accra are back. Hashtag Light Up the City has become an integral part of the Yuletide as the principal streets of Accra and some major landmarks are decorated with beautiful lights. Chief Executive of Jandel Limited, Afi Amoro, who is in charge of the decorations, urged people not to allow the worsening global economic conditions to ruin their Christmas celebrations. Maxwell Agbagba has more in this report.
A Christmas parade through the principal streets of Accra ahead of the Light Up the City event. Last year, it was all fun when I met these children at the Liberation Circle with their parents. The place, which was decorated with many beautiful lights, had become the ultimate Christmas photo studio.
Wow! Having fun this Christmas?
Yes!
You love Christmas?
Yes!
You love Christmas?
Yes! Santa is around and it's Jesus' birthday and we have fun in Christmas.
Oh! Yes! Are you having a good time here?
Yes! Yes! I like it, I love it and I feel it.
Oh, okay.
Africa.
Africa. Oh, okay, Mother Africa. Okay, tell me, why do you like Christmas?
Because it's fun and everywhere. And my mom and dad always plan, and we always have Christmas parties.
Oh, okay. That's why you like Christmas.
Yeah.
Let's note our fears about the state of the global economy and commercial implications thereof influence our ability to experience and spread joy this Christmas. This is one of the reasons why we are so passionate about this year's event. It is time to lift up spirits and focus on what matters the most. That is, loving our families and friends and giving to others who have none. Mother Teresa of blessed memory once said that it is not how much we give, but how much love we put into giving. This season is about showing love, caring for each other, and being there for one another. That is the sparkle of Christmas. The best part of this season cannot be bought. It must be felt in the heart.
Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Corte says the beautification of the city with the lights will help us make great memories.
This year's event promises to give Ghanaians a spectacular and exciting experience. This December, the Regional Coordinating Council, in partnership with Messrs. Jandel Limited and Manlo, will light up the capital with a beautiful illumination across the streets of Accra. The Light Up the City 2022 will enhance the Christmas celebrations as a high point for the festive season and bring excitement within the city. All eyes go up in Accra.
It's a wrap on that celebratory note, but stay with us. We get into the papers up next. We'll be right back. Welcome on the News Review, and we're joined by the man himself from the Media Foundation for West Africa, Suleimana Brima, who will be helping me get into the papers. Mr. Brima, a very good morning to you.
And thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure always to have you. We've entered Christmas week, and of course, we all celebrated together, but some are saying that the Christmas feel, the smell, the odor of Christmas still can't be distinctly smelled or felt. For you, how are you feeling this Christmas? Let me put it to you.
Well, I guess I feel quite the same as those expressing the sentiments that the feeling appears not to be there. I guess what gives me a reminder is the fact that we go on break on Thursday this week, and that is perhaps the constant reminder to me that we are getting to Christmas. Otherwise, I don't think that the traffic situation is as we know it to be during the Christmas period. I haven't heard, friends and colleagues, friends and family members in the markets act differently or say things differently in terms of patronage and all of that. So it appears we are losing that feel that is often associated with Christmas. But maybe this is the week, and we wait and see how things will go.
Well, this is the week. We wait to see how things go. Interestingly, the price of chicken has shot up the last time I checked, and of course that is one of the staples we use for Christmas. And I don't know whether you saw my blunt thoughts. You watched my blunt thoughts last week. I was devastated when I realized that for 5 years back to back, since 2017 till now, Ghana has been the biggest importer of chicken on the continent of Africa. We're doing more than Nigeria with over 200 million people, Ethiopia with over 100 million people, many countries with 80 million, 50 million plus, South Africa and Tanzania with over 59 million. It really shook me. But at least there's some good news. Mr. President has said that some of those imports that we bring into the country that we can do here, we can cater for here, we're going to work at them, import substitution. I'm waiting for when it gets to chicken, especially as the association in Ghana is saying 80% of their businesses have folded up and that the remainder are very weak and they could, be folding up soon. Maybe, I don't know whether you have any quick reflections on that before we get into the papers.
Well, the poultry industry in the country is really suffering. I have two friends who started poultry farming, one about 2.5 years ago, the other person about 4 years ago. And surprisingly, early this year, in fact, towards the middle of this year, they both had to fold up. And their major concern was the cost of feed. So in other words, the cost of maintaining the animals, the cost of keeping the animals wasn't matching the profit that they were generating, mainly from the eggs. And so they thought, well, it's better we rather close shop and refocus elsewhere than to continue to invest in a non-productive venture. So the poultry industry is really, really suffering. And I don't know at what point we really got into this whole enterprise of importing that large quantities of poultry. And it comes down to who are the people involved. If it is people in government, people in powerful positions, and the government has a difficulty in implementing policies that may eventually affect those people economically, then we would see what we have been seeing. But well, I have little hope when certain statements are made by government officials, but maybe for some things it might be different. And so we can look forward to what the president has said.
Well, let's get into the papers now and start with the Daily Graphic. Transport fares down by 15.3% from today. That is on page 20. There's also Kwesi Botre's burial Thursday. Professor Kwesi Botre, may his soul rest in perfect peace. And there is victory is called to duty, as Yedun Ketia declares, as he wins NDC chairmanship. Fifi Kwete Yamin win General Secretary and National Organizer slots. There's also GCAA poised to enforce drone directives. Well, let's get into those stories now, starting with the one on... Maybe let me start with page 16 with the two stories there, Suleimana. So the GCAA is poised to enforce drone directives, and the Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, in collaboration with the security agencies, is working to enhance the enforcement of drone directives in the country. This is to ensure that Ghana's aerospace is efficiently controlled and kept safe. The Director General of the GCAA, Charles Kweku, told the Daily Graphic on the sidelines of a stakeholders' breakfast meeting held last Thursday that had become necessary because while there were rules controlling the flying of drones, they were often overlooked. He says, we're in a continuous engagement with the national security and relevant agencies to enforce the directives on drones. This includes the involvement of the police and the Ghana Air Force in enforcement actions. Finally, drones and aircraft fly in the same airspace, and if that space is not regulated, it will pose a risk, he said. Additionally, drones use technology just as aircraft, and so if the airspace is not regulated, it may result in unpleasant stories, he explained. That's the first one. The second one, Ghana's longest-serving finance minister, Professor Kwesi Botre, who passed away last month, will be laid to rest in a private burial on Thursday, December the 22nd. The burial will be preceded by a burial service at the forecourt of the State House in Accra on the same day. The state event, which begins at 9 a.m., is expected to be attended by the President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, ministers of state, former presidents, members of the diplomatic corps, and other dignitaries in politics, the economic community, and academia, as well as members of the NDC. Quick reflections on these two stories. I don't know whether when Prof met his demise, we got to speak about his legacy, did we?
No, we did not, but I suppose it's not yet late to do that. Of course, I mean, even though some of us were very young when Professor Botre, in the early days of his role as finance minister during the PNDC days, I could still recall that during budget statements, specific prices of certain items were mentioned. And then, of course, the usual thing about which roads were going to be constructed, which bridges and all of that. Economic recovery program, structural adjustment program, PAMS card, IMF. I think he's done quite a considerable, contributed considerably to the economic management of this country, even though there are those who would say, look, there were lapses, and of course he wasn't perfect. But nonetheless, under Mills Mahama, he still continued to play certain vital roles. At some point, he was the chair of the NDPC, the National Development Planning Commission. And so this is a man who has really contributed his quota to the development of this country, and we owe it a duty to give him a befitting burial and farewell service. So commiserations to his family, and may he rest in perfect peace.
The Ghana Civil Aviation Authority, regulations on drones. What's your take on that?
That's really an important subject matter, because we know that drone technology is really growing. If you monitor what is happening in the Russia's invasion of Ukraine, you would no doubt learn about the deployment of drone technology for warfare. And so it is not something that you would want to joke about. What I am quite disappointed in is the fact that in almost every situation, we have to sit down, get overwhelmed before we now say we want to crack the whip. At what point was it allowed for drones to just be allowed to be, utilizing our airspace as if there were no laws and no regulations? So why did we sit down to get to this point where, people have literally used our space as though there are no, regulations regarding how drones can be flown in our airspace? And then it's now that we are saying, oh, we want to engage national security, engage, the appropriate authorities to ensure that the right things are done. Well, better late than never, but I think it should be a lesson. We shouldn't always put ourselves in this kind of situation where we allow things to get out of hand before we try to enforce the law. That is the bane of our country. And I believe that it is a subject matter that is important, and hopefully the GCAA would be able to deal with it in a way that would bring, resolution to whatever is happening.
Right. Let's also look at the NDC, rally behind elected officers, Mahama to NDC supporters. And former President John Dramani Mahama has charged the newly elected executives of the National Democratic Congress to hit the ground running and get to work to return the party to power. He also called on the candidates who lost the election to remain committed to the party and the rank and file of the party to rally behind the new leaders to succeed. Quoting him, he says, "This celebration must be very short. We must cut it short and get to work immediately. As I said, we are all the winners. For those who were elected, we must be gracious in victory. And for those who have lost, let us understand that there is a lot of room under the umbrella for everybody." As the national chairman said, the party might be asking them to work in a different capacity, and we will make sure that all those who were not elected would have a role in the 2024 campaign, the former president said. And of course, tying that to Victoria's call to duty, the newly elected chairman of the NDC, Johnson Esiedu Nketia, says his election to the new role, like that of others who were successful in their bid, was a call to duty to lead the party to success in 2024. Quick reflections on this, and I want you to tie in some interesting bits. Some of those that fell by the wayside, prominent among them. It's interesting, isn't it? JoyNews fell to JFK for the MPP, and now Ofosu Ampofo has fallen by the wayside to Esiedu Nketia. And both times you would see them coming through and doing this and all of that, the change sign and the crowds cheering, and true to the voracious noise, they have been changed. But when you look at the faces, the crop of new executives of the NDC, do you feel they have what it takes to cross that bridge and win power for the party? And to finally add to that conversation, George Abu-Baidoo, there's been a stay, an injunction on his being declared winner and national youth organizer. But we hear the party has gone ahead to do that anyway. What would that mean? Quick reflections.
Well, on the issue of Abu-Baidoo, I think it's a legal question, and I'm sure those in law would deal with that, whether the injunction was effective and therefore he ought not to have been sworn in or otherwise. So I leave that to those who have law backgrounds to deal with. Now, in terms of the people who were selected, I would say that if you look at experience, at this particular moment, there is no doubt that the leadership of the NDC in terms of the chairman, the general secretary, the national organizer, the national women's organizer, certainly have superior experience if you compare them with the leadership of the NPP. Of course, there's no doubt about the experience of Asiedin Ketia politically and in terms of administering the party. He's been general secretary for the last 17 years. And prior to that, he's been an MP before for, I think, 2 or 3 terms. He's been a deputy minister before. And when it comes to electoral matters, there's no doubt that he stands tall. If you compare him with, say, Stephen Ayensu in team, of course, in team is a stalwart in the MPP and in Ghanaian politics. But in terms of practical experience, Asiedin Ketia will stand tall. If you look at Fifi Kwete and you want to compare him with JFK, certainly there's considerable experience on the part of Fifi Kwete. He's been the National Propaganda Secretary of the NDC way back, I think for almost 2 terms. He's been a member of parliament before. He's been a deputy minister and he's been a minister. So politically and also in terms of party issues, again, he has superior experience compared to JFK. Joseph Yamin has been in the leadership position of the NDC in the Ashanti region, has been a deputy minister before, and all the others. Hannah Bisu, the same thing, has been a minister, a deputy minister before, was the national women's organizer, and now the national women's organizer. So these are folks with considerable experience. I think the other thing is that the delegates were looking for people who are supposedly, let me say, combatant or radicals, persons that would be able to stand up to any form of bullying, would be able to fight on behalf of the party. So if ahead of the elections, if you engaged any of those who were delegates, that was mainly the factor. Who is that person who can really stand up? And we think that Asiedin Ketia is fearless. We think that Yamin is fearless. Hannah Bisu is fearless. Pablo is known to be fearless. Fifi Kwete is the same. And I think that was really the driving force behind the victory of these people. And in the case of Asiedin Ketia, I think the actions of persons like Oko Anyidoho and Alote Jacobs really did not help the chances of the then chairman of Ofusu Ampof. Plus the fact that, again, you can't discount the experience of General Mosquito. People in the party felt, not voting for him means that we are basically not going to have him in the leadership of the party, but we can't do without him. So let us give it to him, apart from the fact that this is somebody we think is quite fearless. And so, they've gone for folks that undoubtedly have the experience, and I believe that they would be able to contribute their quota to the democratic sustainability of our country, which is really critical. So congrats to those who won, and better luck to those who lost. And for me, the most important thing is our democracy and the integrity of it, having governance that is accountable, that is transparent, that involves the citizenry, and serving the interests of the citizens. That is what we must all continue to fight for.
Well, interesting thoughts shared there. Let's get into other stories very quickly. And on the back page, Messi inspires Argentina to win World Cup glory. Did you catch snippets of the match yesterday?
Yes, I watched it fully.
Wow.
Almost fully. I did like the entire second half and the extra time and the penalties.
Okay.
But the first half, I missed quite a bit. In fact, I was not motivated to watch because my instinct was that France was going to win.
Okay.
And I was
and you didn't want that. You wanted Messi to win.
I didn't want that. I wanted Argentina and Messi to win. So I didn't have the courage to watch until I called a friend and he said, are you not watching the match? I said, oh, Charlie, I don't have that vim to watch you. Then he said, oh, it's 2-0. I said, in favor of who? Then he said, in favor of Argentina. I said, oh, then I'm going to watch. Then I gathered the confidence to come and watch. And then sadly, at some point, France...
Mbappe nearly stole your joy.
Magic, and I was quite devastated again. But I said, okay, let me just gather the courage to watch. And then I watched extra time, Messi scores again. And by some surprise and magic, Mbappe equalizes. So at that point, I really said, well, what can one do? And I started also at that point admiring the role of Mbappe in this whole enterprise.
23 years old, and he's the first, youngster at this age to have netted 10 goals in the tournament.
And so I told myself, well, if France makes it, I wouldn't be too sad because look, this guy has done so well. But all in all, I was so happy that Messi, got it, a beautiful, perhaps end to his global stardom. And what a way to really bring a career to a possible end. I don't think that Messi is going to feature in the next World Cup. And this is...
We saw him waving to the crowds and all of that. I mean, it's the icing on the cake, if you asked me, capping off a glittering career. My only problem with him is that when it comes to the Ballon d'Or, I feel sometimes hands have been twisted for Iniesta, and he won it, and all of that. That for me settles it when it comes to this GOAT debate. And I don't think there is one person who can claim that. In the circle of Cristiano Ronaldo, in the circle of Pelé, who recently has been on life support because of his condition, Maradona, who has left us, and Messi. I don't feel with Pelé's 3 World Cup trophies, with Maradona's 1, which he practically single-handedly won for Argentina, and 0 and what he has also done, I don't feel we can say that Messi is the all-time GOAT. Some people say with this World Cup, he's achieved that, I think, differently. But congratulations to him. You must give a man his props. And he has had to sweat for this. There's a story about some witches in Argentina, brujas, as the Spaniards would call them, who are doing all kinds of things. But no matter. In the end, Messi has won. And even for a diehard Zero fan, we would salute him. Of course, you must always salute those who overcome you at some point. Anyway, so that is that for sports. Let's do the Ghanaian Times now. At 10th Delegates Congress, Asiedun Ketia, elected NDC chairman, promises to unite parties, rank and file. A question maybe I missed earlier. I listened to Ben Efson, for example, say he would be very surprised if Ofosu Ampofo lost. At least that was the story that was carried. Were you surprised Asiedun Ketia won?
Well, all up to maybe the day or a day before the Congress, I was of the view that Ofosu Ampofo was going to win because it seemed as though the bigwigs had ganged up against Asiedun Ketia. Almost every party bigwig appeared to be throwing support in favor of Ofosu Ampofo. And it was as though Ofosu Ampofo was representing the Mahama camp. And at this stage, really, anyone going against Mahama is likely to lose. So
the former president, though, had come out to say he was not in support of any one of the candidates. Maybe that was what triggered his coming out like that?
Yeah, of course, you expect him to say that. But a day before the Congress, I have, few friends here and there from the various constituencies. And I'll say, oh, but so who are you guys going for? And then they started this whole thing about, well, initially we wanted to go for Ofosu Ampofo, but people are accusing him of not being loyal to Mahama. And if we look at what Koko Anidoho is doing and what Alote Jacob has said, yeah, we are tempted to believe that. But again, if you look at how the 2020 elections went and the way the NDC bullied the NDC, we need people, who are fearless. And so we think we'll go. So at that point, I realized things were changing. And I, in the end, wasn't surprised that Esiedun Ketia made it. And again, I wasn't surprised that someone like Fifi Kweti, known to be very fearless, very bold, also made it.
Well, other stories there. Bear with government to restore economy. President reiterates 15.3% reduction in fares takes effect today. 8 shot dead, 1 injured in ethnic clashes in Boku. My heart breaks every time I have to mention Boku in the same breath as violence, and I don't know what it will take. I really don't know. But let's check out some details, some of the stories here. So, 8 people have been killed in Boku in the Upper East region following ethnic disturbances between Kusasis and Mamprusis. An alleged killing of an old man at Natinga on Saturday resulted in sporadic gunshots, leaving 5 persons dead. The spillover of gunshots yesterday resulted in the death of 2 more persons, bringing the death toll to 8. However, a young man in his 20s who was injured was receiving treatment at the Quality Medical Center in Garu. Residents were thus living in fear and compelled to stay indoors, bringing economic activity to a halt. The Upper East Regional Police Public Relations Officer, ASP David Fiankwatri, disclosed that it was unclear what triggered last night's disturbances, but the police had commenced investigations into the matter. There's also NPA impounds smuggled fuel vehicle at Hamile. And Ashanti Regional Police Command is pursuing 2 suspected robbers who shot 2 persons at Brofuyedru, near Santase in the region on Thursday, one of whom died later. The suspects were said to have attacked a household and shot the 2 persons after one of them was said to have attempted to struggle with them. According to the head of Public Affairs Unit of the Command, Assistant Superintendent of Police Godwin Ahianyo, the victims were rushed to the hospital for medical attention, but one of them, unfortunately, passed while the other is receiving medical attention and is in stable condition. Your reactions to these 2 stories before we get to the economy?
Well, Ben, the development in Boku is a very, very sad one. As we all know, there had been some long-standing violence over the last almost 1 year. But for almost 2 months now, the guns had been silenced. And we were all hoping that the situation in Boku would eventually settle. But one of the contentious issues has always been the festivals that are celebrated in Boku, the Damba among the Mamprusis in Boku, and then the Samampid among the indigenous Kusasi people from the Kusak traditional area. This year, there was a lot of, agitation and tensions towards the celebration of the Damba festival among the Mamprusis in Boku. But I know, having spoken to some people, that the overlord of the Kusak traditional area, the Bokunaba, prevailed on his subjects to say, no, look, what is the point in saying that an ethnic group or a tribe that is located within the Kusak area wants to celebrate their festival, and then we say no? I think that people should allow them to celebrate the festival. And indeed, the Damba festival was celebrated without any glitch. And so it's, for many, quite surprising that as the communities get closer to the celebration of Samampid, which is always towards the end of December, then we have this development that has happened. This old man, the community where this man was killed is actually not Natinga, but it's called Seng Nating, but people confuse the 2. So this is a very old and very, very respected old man who is a Kusasi, and people just went and shot him. And then shot his young son, who also got wounded. And that then triggered the violence again. And unfortunately, as we hear, additional people were killed. This is really unfortunate. And I really, really admire the Zugrana, the Bokunaba, and his resilience in maintaining peace. But for his intervention constantly, look, we would have had a spillover of the conflict to the other areas. Because remember, when you talk about the Kusag area, it's the 6 districts in the area. So Zebila, Garu, Timpani, Pusiga, Binduri, and then Boku itself. These are
Right.
all the Kusasi enclave. And I really must commend the Bokunaba for prevailing on his divisional chiefs and the subjects in this area, these areas, for not intervening so that we have a spillover. I just appeal to our brothers and sisters in the Kusag area, in Boku municipality, to let peace prevail, because people are suffering, people are struggling,
Right.
and no one gains from these gun violence. And I believe that going forward, this may be the end of the violence that we continue to see in the area.
Let's wrap with a few stories from some papers. We continue with the Ghanaian Times. 15.3% reduction in fares takes effect today. And this was announced in Accra last Friday in a press release jointly signed by the General Secretary of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, Mr. Godfred Abolbere, and the General Secretary for the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, Mr. Emmanuel Ohene Yabua, and copied to the Ghanaian Times. And so diesel was expected to be sold at 15 cedis per litre in the next pricing window that day. So that is it, a 15.3% reduction. Then there is bear with government to restore economy. Ghanaian Times. In fact, the president in the Daily Guide also justifies the cedi's rise in there. And the Finder also captures that story. Cedi's rebound, not by chance. But it's interesting. I've heard different economists and others say, look, this is just because, first of all, it's December and we know what happens. Let's wait till January, February, when we see that cycle of the cedi's slump every year. Others have also said the explanation has to do with Forex Bureau's belief that the fundamentals of our economy have not significantly changed. In fact, not much has changed. So things will eventually return to what they were before. In effect, the Forex Bureaus are thinking the dollar will go back up, so they are not willing to sell the dollars, which is why people can't get that. And the final point being that the Bank of Ghana rate is what the banks use among themselves. But how many people go to the banks for, hard currency? People don't go to the banks. So this may be somewhat artificial. We pray it's not, but what are your reactions to those stories?
Well, the rebound and appreciation of the cedi is certainly a positive development, even if it turns out to be a short period. I don't expect that if the dollar begins to pick up against the cedi again, we would see it in the manner in which it was constantly rising. Maybe we'll get to the usual state of affairs where you see maybe it is 8.9 today and the next day is 9.1 or 9, and then it keeps maybe at a very, very slow pace increasing like that. But we were seeing a very galloping depreciation or appreciation of the dollar. And so I just hope that the managers of the economy will be able to put this in place so that we'll not get back to the developments that we witnessed. But for me, looking at how the trend has been over the last 2 weeks, it is quite a strange one. It's almost the same as how the appreciation of the dollar was happening. It therefore gives me an indication that, look, this is not a normal trend. There is something that is happening. Right. And eventually we'll get to the point where things will stabilize. But as I said, I am just hoping that it wouldn't get to the point where the cedi would fall so drastically the way it did. The president asking that we cooperate for the economy to rebound. Yes, every Ghanaian is patriotic, and that is why we are where we are. I just hope that the president would also do what would give signal to the population that he is also being very responsible in terms of the demands that he's making. Because people have constantly asked that reduce the size of your government. The president is adamant. If he is adamant, why does he think that people would have to cooperate with him? So we would want to see some gesture on the part of the president so that we all can say, okay, if the president has decided to do this, then we also have a responsibility to cooperate. Ghanaians have already sacrificed quite enough, but the president has done nothing to appreciate the sacrifice of the people.
The president has done nothing.
And it is time.
Mr. Brima, give me 30 seconds on the Burkina Faso situation. Just 30 seconds. What's your take?
I guess you're talking about the president's statement.
Yes.
I think it was really, really uncalled for. I'm asking, was it the case that it was a meeting that was supposed to be behind closed doors, off camera, off the media, and it got leaked? But watching the scene, it appears that it wasn't so. It was something that, a meeting that was known to be a public thing, not off camera, not behind the scenes or behind closed doors. And so I'm really surprised that the president will make such a statement publicly. The president, who has been a foreign minister before and understands diplomacy, I really wonder why he did that, because it was a statement that was absolutely uncalled for. I mean, it could have been a briefing, behind the scenes with the U.S. officials, but not one that you make publicly. I think the Burkinabe authorities are justified in their anger, because I don't expect that the president or a senior government official of our country will make such a statement publicly, especially outside the shores of our country. What was their basis? Is it to court the affection of the United States? Is it to court, the disaffection of Russia? We all know what Russia is doing in the Sahel region, and then some of us can talk about it publicly in terms of the Wagner Group, in terms of the disinformation campaign that we must all stand up against. But for the president to make this public statement, I think that it's really uncalled for.
Suleimana, it's been really good, as always, joining you for the news review. Thank you so much, sir, and do have a good day.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas in advance.
Merry Christmas to you and the entire team at Multimedia. And kudos for the great work you do, and wishing you the very, very best.
Thank you, sir. And that is how we cap off the news review. A very happy birthday to Hilda Amenyo. Today is your birthday, my very good friend. God richly bless you on this day and lift you higher and higher. Hilda Amenyo, have a wonderful day. On that note, let's settle for sports, and definitely we're going to be telling you about that win, famous win by the Albiceleste of Argentina. Do stay. Welcome aboard Drive Safe, the segment where we get to tell you all about driving and staying safe, as well as ensuring that fellow road users also stay safe. How do you do that? When you drive safe, then you ensure that everybody is safe, everybody is secure, once we're doing the right things on the road. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. This is Drive Safe. I am here at Top Tech Transport and Logistics with their CEO, Cecil Gabra. Hello, Cecil.
Hi, Ben.
It's been a while.
That's very true.
Yeah.
I think this time we can shake hands. I guess scared.
We are not using masks, so we can. It's no longer mandatory, so we might as well shake hands. I hope you've been well.
Yes. I've been well, very well.
Right.
Just managing with every situation that comes across, whether you like it or not.
I can see that. Well, today we're discussing the causes of road crashes. We've started 2022, and in the first quarter, you should see the figures we are getting. Not as high as last year, but close. We're still in the thick of a lot of road accidents. What are the causes, and how do we prevent some of those things? You'll be finding out right after this. But like we usually do, we get into our other bits. So you think you know? Are you sure? Let's check out today's road sign and find out just how much you know. All right, so at the tail end of today's segment, we'll find out what that road sign represents. But let me get back to Cecil Gabra. We're exploring the causes of road crashes. And I want us to start from the angle of, I know the Okada situation has become something else now. There are new arrangements for a lot of them. But motorcycles and tricycles, I'll share with you a story. Where I come from, practically every day, you would see at dawn motorcycles, tricycles, especially the tricycles, the ones that carry all kinds of things, including rubbish and the rest. And at dawn, they are moving without any light. So it means if you are not watching carefully, or if your light is not up, you will not spot them before you realize, accident. Let's get into some of the causes of road crashes.
Definitely what you're saying is very, very true. But before I tackle that issue, I just want everybody to know that when we talk about road crashes is not an issue where you always blame the driver, right? But then 90% of accidents that we're talking about comes from we human beings, 90%. 5% is caused by the engineering of the roads. I mean, we always
have bad roads.
Precisely, or maybe sharp curves or something has gone wrong on the road. Okay, you don't blame it on it. Another 5% goes to mechanical errors. That is, errors on the vehicles, errors on maybe motorbikes and so on could cause those.
Your brakes fail you.
Precisely, but that is only 5%. But the major issue is 90% of the accidents are caused by you and I, human beings. Okay, so if you want us to talk about Okada, let's talk about the Okada issue today. I'm talking about motor riders, tricycles, and bicycles.
So when you talk about motorbike riders, all of them, not just Okada.
Yes.
Not just those who are doing it commercially. It also includes private users of motorbike.
Private users, right. Let me just, let's just sum it up.
We're lumping all of them
precisely.
together. Right.
Let me start from bicycles. When I was a little boy, right, 6 o'clock, you cannot ride your bicycle without light.
6 p.m.
Yes, 6 p.m. It's a law. It's still there. The Airline 2180 addresses it. That don't ride when the weather changes. Okay, that's to done. Okay, so 6 o'clock now, you realize that many people are riding bicycles without lights. That makes it very dangerous. I live off the Spinters Road and I see a lot of accidents almost every evening because if somebody is riding, he sees you, you cannot see him. Right. I want the law enforcers to add that to it now. And then first of all, I think we need to sound a warning to all the bicycle users that you cannot use your bicycle if you don't have lights in the evening.
But this is common knowledge, but it appears people still take the law into their own hands. You don't need to know LI 2180 to know that
precisely
when you are riding at that time, because visibility is so poor, you should have your light on. If you don't have your light on, you expose yourself.
You're very right, Ben. Try and have a chat with those bicycle riders and then you'll listen to what they'll tell you. You have the greatest insults in your life. Right.
Have you attempted speaking?
Oh, I have several times because, I mean, even last night it happened just right in front of me. Somebody was crossing me, riding a motorbike when I was just about joining the Spinters. And then this is it. Right. Motor riders are doing it. They are riding without lights in the evening. Tricycles are doing it. And then talking about motor riders, I feel when we do the statistics now, the issue of motor riders in accidents may come down because most of them are no longer using it for the usual Okada that we talk about. And when I say Okada, they have a pillion rider behind them. No, now
that is conveying people.
Yes, they are not conveying people. Now they have changed, and then thanks be to companies that are employing riders to be dispatch riders, where you have their bag behind them and they are going to dispatch. That is fine, but again, they don't think about the road regulations. When they see the red lights, I have pictures, I have videos, and then you see out of about 20 motor riders, only 2 will wait for the green light.
But in that specific instance, I'll bring in the law enforcers themselves, police officers. I mean, I recall only recently, a few days ago, I was at, how would I reference, the traffic light before you cross to, what's the name of this place? You know, when you leave the multimedia group, you take the Atenka and heading toward trying to connect from Abeka Junction to the N1. You see the police training school. The police
Tessano.
Tessano, that's the name. the traffic light before you get to the Tesano, training school. A police officer comes, so this is what happened. Some motor riders come and stop because they've seen the police officer come there. They don't want to get into trouble. It's still red. The police officer only stopped because some people were coming from the other end. Once there were no people coming, though we were still red, he went through and the others followed him.
Yeah, so that is it.
So, I mean...
So if the law enforcer is doing the wrong thing...
Exactly.
And that also comes to the issue where you find a law enforcer driving in the middle of the road.
Right.
Right. He's using his private car. He's wearing his uniform, whether it is customs, whether it is immigration. They feel they have the right of way. And that is so bad. So if you are doing so, others will also emulate your example and do similar, which is so bad. But talking about motor riders, I think if we have all of them obeying the traffic regulations, and that's the lights like we see in Togo, right? We're going to go a long way to reduce the crashes on them, because at the moment, just like you and I know, statistics on motor riders crashes is still on the high. Rather, commercial vehicles are on the low.
Right.
Right, and then something must be done immediately, and this goes to our law enforcers that we need to. And I always talk about, and I said it on your sister station, that we need proper enforcement. If the police cannot do it all, we need to borrow the military police. I've said it several times. Okay, that's the red cap guys. They should team up. What are we looking at? We are looking at one goal to reduce the crashes and make sure that human lives are saved. That is what we're looking at. So motor riders who are not using their lights, tricycles and bicycles, my major concern is bicycles, must be arrested. The laws are there.
Okay, so that is the first point we're going to be focusing on, and that has to do with these riders, all of them together. Motorbike riders, whether commercial or private, bicycle riders, tricycle riders. The tricycles are also dangerous. They're always trying to, get ahead of you, cut corners, and sometimes, and maybe in our next segment, we'll talk about how sometimes they create or cause accidents because of the slow nature. They are carrying so much, it leaves a lot of people frustrated. You try to, overtake them, and it's another wahala. But that will be for our next segment. Thank you so much, Cecil.
You're very most welcome.
All right. We're wrapping today with, so you think we started with our question for the day. Do you know this road signal? Well, let's find out whether you got the answer correct. And on that note, if you didn't know, now you know. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for joining us on Drive Safe. Have a great day. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. And as promised, we're talking about the NDC's latest Congress. We had 10,936 delegates, 81 contenders, and 14 slots available. In the end, 25 in all, because you're also looking at the NEC members, the deputies, and all of that. But the NDC has elected its national officers to steer the affairs of the party for the next 4 years. The team has former General Secretary Esiedun Ketia leading the pack as national chairman, former Member of Parliament for Ketu South, Fifi Fiavi Kwete, also elected General Secretary of the party. In all, about 25 of these executives have been given the nod to wrest power from the governing NPP. Question is, can they? Today, we analyze Saturday's event and also speak to some executives as well as top NDC members. Joining us for the conversation this morning, we have Dr. Osai Kwapong, who is here with us. He'll be here helping us get into those discussions. Our other guests will join us as the show proceeds. And Dr. Kwapong, of course, is a CDD fellow. A very good morning to you, Dr. Kwame.
Morning to you too.
It's always good to have you whenever you're in town passing through like this. We're grateful that you've made the time to join us. So I'll start with you. First of all, the Cape Coast event, National Youth Organizer, National Women's Organizer, that was settled until we saw that injunction. And we'll get into the swearing in of George Opariado Pablo and what the court had said, the injunction. But what did you make of that initial Congress? Did it give any taste, any signs of what we saw this past Saturday?
You know, I think it, you get to see that sometimes when the, incumbent executives try to put their weight behind particular candidates and the sort of tensions that it can generate, particularly around the National Youth Organizer, I started getting worried that it was starting to degenerate into, a personal back and forth with all the revelations. But I mean, politics is a very competitive affair. Whether we are competing against our political opponents or whether we are competing amongst ourselves, it sometimes brings out some of these passions. You just hope that it doesn't cross a line because it can become injurious to the party itself. But I mean, I'm glad that at least that 24, 48-hour period sort of subsided. The former president weighed in to say, at the end of the day, it is the interest of the party that is as hard. Let's all cease all of these hostilities. And then at least I think it puts them in a much better place, mentally, emotionally, and all of that as they prepared for what just happened over the weekend.
I personally feel, though, the acts that we saw in Cape Coast were very bad, very ugly scenes that we saw with the firing of gunshots. Alex Sigbefia clarified that those were the police actually firing those gunshots, and some 16 people that the police is on a manhunt for with a 10,000 Ghana cedi bounty on each of their heads. Of course, everything that escalation led to, George Opariado, after winning by the skin of his teeth, now going on a rampage, attacking Sam George, Sammy Jemfi, among other stalwarts of the party, and even daring the top echelons of the party to come and speak to the issues. Then, apparently, I don't know whether you saw the two of them, Sammy Jemfi, George Opariado, sitting with former President John Dramani Mahama. And then we were told they had smoked the peace pipe. They wouldn't say anything online and all of that. Of course, you can tell that the tensions are still simmering.
Right.
But on the back of that, I mean, the happenings on the day, did you expect to see that, especially for a party? We criticized the MPP when they had their own violence and claims of rigging and all of that. Were you expecting the party supposedly in waiting, the NDC, to deliver scenes like this one? Was that what you were expecting, what happened in Cape Coast?
There's just something about political opposition, and I just don't know why these intra-party elections tend to get, that intense to the point where it comes across as though we are forgetting who, quote unquote, our real political opponents are. Right? We fight so intensely among ourselves that you would think the election is between us and our fellow party members. So it's rather unfortunate when it sort of plays out like that. But I think part of the reason too is that, and one of the things that I have suggested is that perhaps those who are already in office, the incumbents, the party establishment figures, should perhaps begin to play a more, quote unquote, neutral role publicly where these elections are concerned. Because when you start to perceive that, a particular national office or office holder is putting his or her weight behind a particular candidate, it makes it look like the race is tilted, and the proceedings may not be fair, things like that. So I think one of the lessons for me is, how do you make sure that there's a certain sense of neutrality from current incumbents or the establishment party leaders going into some of these intra-party elections?
And we also know that from there, definitely, we headed to the big one.
Yeah.
what we saw on Saturday. What would be your assessment of what transpired? Some say because of the scenes in Cape Coast, this was pretty mellow. I had Koko Anyidoho in the studio here with me on Saturday saying that, well, because of the scenes from Cape Coast, this was a lot more restrained, not the usual vibrancy, if you like, that you would see on the grounds and all of that. But in the end, I guess bottom line is they wanted a successful Congress and a peaceful one. What would be your assessment?
Exactly. They wanted a successful conference. They wanted a peaceful conference. I'm sure because of what had happened in Cape Coast, there was some expectation that even if, you know, the National Youth Organizer election, for example, can cause all of this angst, then how much more the national executives want, particularly too, because when there had been, you know, issues in the public spaces for the national chairman race between Mr. Seydou Nketia and Mr. Ofosu Ampofo. So I think part of that was also the expectation that is this even a bigger sign of things to come? And for me, I'm glad that it wasn't a sign of bigger things to come in terms of even worse behavior than had been witnessed in Cape Coast. So for me, we should commend and appreciate the fact that it was, you know, it was peaceful. Everything went smoothly, and at the end of the day, they had a successful Congress.
So for you, at the second calling, the NDC scaled that hurdle.
Yes.
At the Congress.
Yes, because I think it would have perpetrated the narrative from the weekend that, you know, they weren't organized, they couldn't control their own people. Imagine if this had also not gone well at the back of what had happened in Cape Coast. I think it wouldn't have been a good public relations thing for their party. So I'm glad they were able to pull through it.
I actually recall, I think it was the MPP delivering its solidarity message. You know, if you recall, the NDC went to the MPP's own Congress and jabbed them, and they returned the favor. Right. And one of the things they mentioned was that, well, you people have said yourselves that when it comes to violence, you seem to know how to do it, so we are not surprised. So I guess if anything had happened there,
exactly,
it would have just
reinforced
escalated.
And reinforced that narrative. Right. Yeah.
Interesting thoughts you've had there. Let me also mention that we have Dr. Bernard Tutu Boahen, lecturer, political marketing consultant at the University of Education, Winneba. Doc, thank you for joining the conversation. And we also have via Zoom Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political scientist, head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. Doc, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, and good morning to my friends in the studio.
All right. Dr. Boahen, just hold for me, since he is on Zoom and that anything could happen there. Let me quickly engage Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. For you, your assessment, I know you were here on Saturday sharing your thoughts, but your assessment, Congress 1 and Congress 2, Cape Coast and Accra. What did you see in Cape Coast? What were the lessons learned that maybe the NDC brought to bear in Accra? And what would be your assessment of what we saw last Saturday?
If we look at what happened in Cape Coast, part of it was a sorry story. The chaos that greeted the whole beautiful exercise, almost mad it, and then the violence and all that. A completely different scenario in Accra, where it was peaceful and more calm. But you can understand what happened in Accra from the perspective of Cape Coast, in the sense that they wanted to avert the situation where there will be a repeat of that ugly spectacle in Cape Coast. So they put in their all, and with the support of the security, they were able to maintain some high level of discipline, and then the election went on smoothly, and they had their leaders elected. The lessons learned so far is that if you are the leaders, anytime they are going for election, if they are able to do their homework very well, which I commend Mr. Sigbefia and his team, they are able to get the results that they want. And those of us who are students of democracy, we are happy, because no democracy thrives without peaceful atmosphere. You need to create that enabling environment that brings about peace, so that people can go and exercise their franchise freely. And that's one lesson. Another lesson is that organization decides everything. You see how they organize themselves against what happened in Cape Coast, and it worked for them. So I'll urge all political parties that anytime they go into any contest, the organization must be paramount, And then there must be the conscious effort to ensure that there is peace, so that whatever exercise that they are ruling, at the end of the day, will get to its logical conclusion without any incident.
What for you were the standout occurrences or highlights of what happened at the Accra Sports Stadium? For me, reminiscent of what we saw, Kodia Frimpong, now the chairman of the NPP, and when John Abu-Baidoo, the general secretary of the NPP, when John Abu-Baidoo came through and the sort of reaction, and then when JFK came through and the change sign and everything that happened, and how it panned out. Similar scenes when Johnson Ketia hit the ground and the sign of change and all of that. And again, the acceptance, for example, from Dr. Peter Boama Otokuno, when he was seen to be in pole position, yet Fifi, Fiavi, Kwete, trouncing him, and his quick admittance that, look, I've lost, let's forge ahead with the party. For you, what were the standout events?
If you look at, I must say that during the voting, even before the voting and all that, and during the voting, the early stages, I was not around, but I monitor a few from the television set and also listen to the radio. But all in all, what I saw was that, there was the desire, the burning desire of the people to comport themselves, and then to make sure that whoever emerges victoriously, the person will be, congratulated. And then whoever loses the election, you accept defeat and abide by the rules of the game. And that played out. You saw quickly Otokuno calling Fifi to congratulate him and accept defeat and all that. That's a spirit behind any democratic experiment or exercise, that when you lose the election, you must be magnanimous enough to be able to accept defeat and abide by the rules of the game. We saw that. We also saw the desire, the burning desire of the people to make sure that at the end of the day, it is not about their party, but it's about the Ghana that they want to, as it quote unquote, to wrestle power from, and then redeem the people from the shackles and tentacles of bad rule. Let me put it that way. For them. So there was every effort towards achieving this objective, and that really worked out beautifully. It is true that we saw aspect of the campaign which was getting nasty and all that, but at the end of the day, you hear from Council of Elders and then well-meaning people within the party preaching peace and making sure that the party's interest must be considered as paramount, and that really worked the magic for them.
Let me come into the studio now. Dr. Boahen has been waiting with bated breath to also contribute to the show. Thank you so much, Doc, for your patience.
Yeah.
Let's start with your takeaways from the two events, Cape Coast and Accra, but with a focus on Accra, the Accra Sports Stadium Congress, and how things panned out. What for you stood out?
So, good morning to you and my colleagues, and good morning to viewers. I think that it has been a great learning experience, coming from a background where people thought you couldn't do it, where people have branded you, in the negative, and then you hit a second level with a whole different kind of brand. I think that we can say kudos to the executives of NDC and the organizers of the Saturday's program. And as Dr. Simon Radley put it, several factors contributed to the successful organization of the Saturday's event. And I think that one thing that for me as a lecturer in marketing and management believes in is a learning organization. Normally you serve people, and so when people are complaining and probably giving you suggestions, you take it from that perspective and you reshape or repackage yourself deliver. To me, that makes you more of customer-oriented, organization than probably believing in your ideology, probably believing in your stand, moving forward. And you see, from a political marketing sense, what we have seen, with various studies and research, we believe that, politics is taking up a management perspective. And so if you are able to manage your internal politics very well, it translates into victory with the external politics. And so that is what, has become the order of the day and the focus of research, in political marketing. And I think that the state that we find ourselves, as a growing democracy, we need to learn from some of these experiences. It is about what the voter says. It is about what the voter needs. It's about what the voter is looking for. The kind of perception that the voter holds about you, your leadership, your activities, your ideologies, is what matter. Because that becomes the point of attraction, for the voter to say that, fine, what I'm looking for resides in this political party, and therefore I would go for it. All right. So I think that the NDC has come that long way. They didn't, stayed in the Cape Coast event. They listened to the comments that were coming and decided to put their best foot forward. So that readiness is what we saw on Saturday. And to me, it is an achievement. And you see, I want to agree with Honorable Idrisu and the statement that he gave on Saturday, saying that the leadership of the NDC should brand and rebrand. Right. That is a very...
You mean Haruna Idrisu?
Yes, Haruna Idrisu, yes, yeah. That is a huge advice, to the party. And I am believing that if the party will listen to him and put expert knowledge together, to understand what it takes to brand and rebrand NDC going into 2024, then that would sort of bring some kind of successes, to the party.
Mm. From a marketing perspective, especially as we are talking about saleability, as you started, would it have been fatal, catastrophic, I should say, for the NDC if they had repeated the scenes of Cape Coast in Accra, if there had been some violence, if there had been some, would it have been fatal for the NDC?
Yes, it will all depends on, what the voters are looking for. Mm. All right, you see, voters in general cannot be predicted. And you see, when it comes to our body politics in Ghana, the political science perspective and the political marketing perspective, we all believe that voters are changing and they are strictly not predictable, right? So if you check, we have two different cohorts of voters in Ghana now. I mean, the core partisan voters, and then
who will always vote
exactly
along certain lines.
Yes.
Right.
So for them, you can't change. Okay. All right. But the most interesting thing is that you realize that the swing voters, who are actually the kingmakers, who decides whether victory will go in the way of NDC or MPP, they are the kingmakers, and they decide whether NDC will be victorious or NPP will be victorious. And these guys have certain things that they look for. And if you check, the share of NDC and the share of MPP have all reduced, okay, coming from 2016 to 2020. Core partisanship has reduced, all right? Mm-hmm. So if you are saying that you are organizing an election today for NDC party members and MPP party members to vote, the 50 plus 1 will be very, very impossible for the two parties to achieve.
And you're sourcing data, surveys that have been conducted.
Exactly.
Those are the ones.
Yes.
Are these ones that you have, personally conducted, or you're sourcing general data?
This is a general data which gives you the calculations.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. Now, the key thing or the key cohort that decides are the swing voters. And you see, for a long time, their population keep increasing, especially among the youth, all right, who commands a higher percentage of Ghana's population, all right. There seems to be that demographic shift, you know, and they are all converging at the center. So the issue of center right, center left, that is what it means, all right. Now, which means that when these people decide, then you have victory. If they go against you, you are losing.
Right.
All right. So it means that your brand values, part of it, or majority of it, should be targeting at them. All right. Because whether you like it or not, your followers will vote for you.
Right.
Your sympathizers will vote for you. Okay. Your core partisans, party members will vote for you. The worst of it is that they will abstain. All right. But the key point remains that if you want to attract, or your communications, your activities, and all your marketing, you know, deliberations, part of it is focusing on the core, the swing voters or floating voters. Then, of course, you have advantage.
Right.
All right. But you see that over the years, both NDC and MPP, even 2016 and 2020, most of their communications and activities are directed at core party members, which is not good.
It's like preaching to the choir.
Exactly.
And that's like pouring water on stone, because
Exactly.
these are fanatics anyway.
Yeah.
These are your members.
Yeah.
That's an interesting twist, because
so you see that any church that refuses to do evangelism, that church doesn't grow.
interesting perspectives. According to data, generally, it's projected that the youth on the African continent by 2050 would be over 50-60%.
Exactly.
You get it. So that resonates with what he's saying. And in Ghana, I mean, we're following that very same, trend. If you look at our 2021 census and all of that, which means that these parties, from what Dr. Tutu Buahin is saying, would have to also target the youth, the very young people who may be impressionable, but who are also becoming very discerning. But I'd like to find out from you, is the NDC now, maybe just to wrap on that point, is the NDC now more united, even with the cracks that emerged before this Congress? Is it more united, more divided? Is it a stronger force now? Is it a weaker force on the back of the two Congresses that we saw?
It's very difficult to quote unquote judge, but at least on the back of Cape Coast and then now on the back of the success of Accra, I would hope that post these two major election events, that they are going to forge ahead, given the messages that are coming out from party leadership, those who won, those who didn't win, that they really, there's a strong recognition that they don't have a choice but to go into this united. Yes, every so often, post-election tensions might simmer on, but I always say that for political parties, the key is always how you manage these post-election issues, right? If you are able to manage it well, where they don't continue to fester and they don't continue to become issues, it puts you in a much stronger position.
Has the NDC successfully done that?
Well, they just finished, right? I mean, today is Monday, it's just Saturday, right? So I think from now till, as they get themselves ready for 2024, their inactions or their actions and inactions will be very, very important in ensuring that, tensions don't simmer, the issues don't persist, that they will be able to present a united, because they need that. You can't afford the luxury of having cracks in your party.
The MPP wants to break the 8.
Precisely.
And they also want to seize power.
And
so
they
if
also,
you are not united, obviously.
Exactly. And then you are also coming at the back of this 8-year cycle thing. You have an incumbent government that is really vulnerable at the same time to some of the economic challenges that the country has faced, right? So if you look at the nature of the political winds blowing, if you are the NDC, you want to make sure that you are united to the point where you can take full advantage. Yes, 2 years is a long time in politics, but you don't want internal frictions to be the reason why you can't seize the moment,
right?
And prevent the breaking of the aid, and be able to vote out, the incumbent party. So they don't have a choice but to make sure that the issues don't persist.
All right, Dr. Kwame Asante, on the issue of unity, we saw that tape. Now we don't call it a leaked tape anymore because apparently he had spoken about that matter. But the tape of Asiedu Nketia, the infamous one, come out. People asked me, some panelists here in the studio and others, what I felt would happen, especially with the chairmanship race. And I told them, from what I saw as a student of politics, I felt General Mosquito would come through. And that exactly happened. I just didn't think he would, have such a margin. Is the NDC more united now, even after the challenges they faced, and with the new face of their leadership?
It's early days yet. Why am I saying that? Because when you go through election, there are three phases. The pre-election phase, we saw the rancor, the bickering, the jostling, and the noise, that hover around the whole process. Then on the election phase, on the day of election, there was calm and all that. People expressed themselves through the voting and all that. Then the post-election phase, all right, this is where, if there is any trouble, it's going to fester. And as at now, we haven't seen that yet. It's also, and if you listen to the leaders, especially General Mosquito and then Fifi and Co., they are prepared to, as it were, trigger that process that will ensure that any pain will be assuaged. Any problem that the election brought to the fore will be dealt with. So it tells you how prepared they are, and then going to put themselves together and fight the battle of 2024. This dovetails into the campaign and how they manage them. You look at all of them, particularly at the general secretary position and then the chairmanship position, were things that were very clear, all right, in terms of their messaging. And the message was that, look, they all preach about peace and unity because they needed that to be able to galvanize support and fight the battle of 2024. All right. That aside, there are things that really work for them and undermine the fortunes of others. I'll touch on a few because my colleagues are also around. If you look at in terms of strategy-wise, all right, the issue of the tape came in. All right. It was whether intended or not intended, but I know as a student of political communication and political science, I know that it was a part of the strategy to throw the tape out, which, of course, today it is not a story or something that somebody cooked it. Stephen Ketia himself has admitted to the content and all that. If you look at the effect that the tape brought to bear on the issue, was that there were some people who were really in there 2020 to undermine the whole process, all right, and that know them and then take a decision on them, all right. Yes, that really, really, really worked the magic for somebody like Asiedu Nketia. It did so. And also had a positive effect on Fifi Kwete, because if you look at that type of strategy, all right, it tells you that, yes, whilst you fight for a common goal of what, wrestling power, there were people who were not ready to help us. This has, historical antecedent. If you look at the 1951 election, Nkrumah was accused. Nkrumah, CPP people churn out a certain propaganda issue that, yes, Dankwa and his people have gone to take bribe to delay independence, which obviously was not the case. Dankwa did all he could, and this never worked. The people who were voting made sure that they would punish him and all that. And you saw that the tape really worked the magic. If you listen to the bits and pieces about the speech of Fifi Kwete and all that, they all talk, and they talk about what, people with integrity to lead the party because they can afford another loss in 2024, all right? Another strategy that really also came in was the use of the media by Asiedu Nketia. He was out there, moving from media house to the other, go and express himself about his views, his ideas, and all that. And that also worked the magic, tied it up with what? Fifi Kwete and all that, they were virtually like speaking the same language. You realize that the last election caused a lot of pain to them, all right? So they decided that whether by design or by accident, that they will go back to their roots. So you heard words like probity, accountability, and all that. These were some of the statements that really galvanized support for Rawlings from 79, 81 up to the Fourth Republic, which found expression in the preamble of the country's constitution. If you look there, you come across these words: probity, accountability, transparency, and all that. Once you churn this thing out during campaign, obviously, the party elements who are in tune with the ideals, the tradition of the party get excited. They know that the time has come for them to lift up their game and all that. They were able to do that. Fifi Kwete did that. Asiedun Ketia did a lot of that. Remember, Asiedun Ketia also told us that they are going to build a system, a political system that is fearless, that is bold, dedicated to make sure that they win their lost glory. That was also some of the things that really did the magic for them. And above all, the issue of rule of law, all right, was brought to the fore. The 8 people who were killed during the election, they brought it. Let us remember that one of the variables that really influence voter choices in this country, and it's about the third one, is the issue of rule of law. Ghanaians want leaders who abide by the rule of law and then to guide the conduct during election or within any democratic space. Remember, Asiedun Ketia also talk about what the issue to deal with the economy. It is the economy is the first most important factor that influences voter choices in this country. Take it or leave it. Whether you are NDC, MPP, you want a sound economy to be able to survive. And Asiedun Ketia touch on that. Obviously, though we are doing intra-election, thing, let us remember that at the end of the day, these things will dovetail into the national election and work the magic for him and then the rest of his team. There were also specific issues which also were brought on board that really changed the dynamics, all right? Accusations and then counter-accusations. For instance, there was accusation that some of the people compromised themselves during the last election, and they cited Mr. Fushampofo, Mr. Free Ankra, and all that. Even though, this thing, people did not come out to prove that it was the case or not, but the response that we got from these gentlemen did not, influence the choices of the voters positively, because the explanation was not that convincing and all that. To say the least, we had very little in terms of rebuttals from this. And remember, in elections, take it or leave it, people rely on rumor and all that, and that can sway voters to one direction or another, and that really also affected those who lost, particularly Mr. Mpofo and Mr. Evisefrie Ankra. There were also another issue that also came to play an important role in the campaign and the elections of people who were campaigning for Ofusi Mpofo, for instance, were said to have been, quote-unquote, enemies of the system, all right? There were any people who have been sacked from the parties or suspended, or at best they were in MPP and all that. So it was very interesting to note that, hey, this is a gentleman who is contesting for election, and people who are rooting for him are people who are not within the party and from outside the party. These things are very, very interesting for any observer in politics to take note and take political note of that. So these things also went a long way to shape the political choices of the voters. Because if you really care for your party, why would you want people who will support you should come from your main opponent and all that? And you saw a lot of them, whether it was a strategy or not. If it was, then it was a wrong one, because I was expecting Mr. Mpofo and his team to look at that critically and begin to work against it, all right? There was also the initial problem which I found with Mr. Mpofo, where I know that it was nothing but a propaganda, the bandwagon effect. You know, the statement that, yes, we have prevailed upon Asiedun Ketia to step down, even the former president also prevailed upon him, he did not budge and all that. all right? This is a bandwagon effect they wanted to apply, but it never worked. Because what they are saying by extension is that, look, the right-thinking people are here. The cadres, the other members of the party and whatnot, even opposition, they are saying that, look, the man should have stepped down. But I found it very strange because you are going for election, you put yourself up for competition and somebody emerges to compete with you and you begin to what? Drag your feet and all that, you are not comfortable. It emboldens the person to come forward and confront you head on, knowing that, look, you don't have what it takes to stand for election and others. So initially, I started sending signal that, hey, this is a wrong path to take. If it's a strategy, it's a wrong one. But those who, I'm sure, who manage this campaign did not take note of this. Because in political communication and in election in general, when you are developing messages or you are, in message development, you are thinking about what? Open-ended message is always subject to attack, all right? So when you open yourself up like that, any attack that will come, you'll not be able to defend. And that's why when we are developing message, you look at what others will say against whatever you have churned out, any strategy and all that, in order to what? Defend them. The last one I would say is that we saw the issue of what? We're saying that election hinges on two things, referendum of your work and what? Contest of ideas. We saw the two at play, referendum of the work. Even though Fifi Kwete has worked for a very long time, some people might have forgotten the good things he did for the party and all that. But look, these things are there. They remain indelible in the minds of people. People went for it. These are people who are, clean, who are dedicated, who are fearless. And remember that this group that they've put up, all right, is a group that we can say without fear of contradiction that they are fearless, they are bold, and they are prepared to what? Take power from the MPP. So that also showed positively for Fifi, and the same for what? General Mosquito. That they thought that over the years, the 17 years, he has served his party and served his party well, and this is a time to pay him in a very positive light. And that he is honest and he's bold and he's prepared to go all length and support his party and all that. So all in all, you can say that it was a careful effort to plan the activities, develop message strategies and all that. Those who lost, unfortunately, you realize that even though they had very good track record, look at somebody like Free Ankara and all that. Yes, he has seen it all. As what? Somebody who contested for parliamentary seat and lost. He became a deputy minister. He has worked within the party's echelons and all that. He had really paid his dues and all that. But the issue about the accusation and the wrong perception people had about him with regard to the last election, the two gentlemen, Ofusampofu and Free Ankara, were not able to dismiss this thing and bring to light that they were not guilty. They were not guilty of those offenses, and then they allow it to fester, and that caused the pain to them. I believe that people will learn from this. Then going forward, whenever an issue comes up, all right, you defend or you rebut it with all your might and with all your will.
Let me bring in other guests in the studio. So Doc has spoken about service and ideas. Fifi Kwete, for example, talks about how since 1992, even in school, he had been, a major figure. When people shied away from politics, he was, he showed face, so to speak, for the NDC. Till now, he's been minister, he's been there, done that. First time he's coming into the leadership of the party at this level, though. And for some, it was a bit surprising to see him do it. But he came and he did it in style, basically. Ousting Dr. Peter Boama-Otokuno, who was Deputy General Secretary, thinking he could go a step further, become the substantive General Secretary. And like he mentioned, Elvis Efrie Ankara as well. But looking at these contenders, as we start to pick them apart, definitely not all of them. When you look at the list of 25, you have NEC members and other deputies. Some of them were pretty clear. Dr. Hanabisu and others. It was clear that probably they would need an old dog, one who had been there, done that, organized. But with some of those positions. So I ask, was it then the messages of the likes of Esiedun Ketia, Fifi Kwete, among a few others, Joseph Yamin, for example, that won them the slots? You recall on the day, the chairman then, Ofosu Ampofu, said, the mosquito you can see cannot bite. But on social media, after the voting, people said, well, the mosquito has bitten him and he has caught political malaria. From the marketing perspective, is it the messages of these winners that did the trick for them?
You see, the first thing remains that you don't go to a political contest with one weapon, multiples of them. Right. Now, when you check the messaging of Esiedun Ketia, which was captured in the leak tape, as it were, you see, it was not just about, putting up a message against the opponent. He actually tagged it as a response. All right. Now, in that tape, when you listen to it and analyze it carefully, there's what you refer to in politics and in political marketing as clientelism.
Okay.
And which talks about, how you can convince people either through gifting or even through messaging. And in messaging, you see, people think about propaganda as one of the issues in clientelism. But you see, the point remains that if you are using propaganda, it has to do with the kind of propaganda strategy you are using. And from where I sit, it was an issue of red herring, where, you see, he picked a message which the people are ready to hear.
My sincere apologies for doing this. I apologize. But we've got one of our guests, one of the contenders for who is now Deputy General Secretary. We don't want to lose her on the line. So let's quickly get her. Barbara Sewa Asamoah contended and was retained Deputy General Secretary. Barbara, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
Oh, I love the sound of your voice this morning. Is it the win? Is it the victory that has made you sound so excited, happy this morning?
Well, my strength is in the Lord, so I'm always excited.
Wow. Tell me, we've been speaking about messages here, for example, ideas, service, the message. Tell us a bit about what you feel led to your getting the mandate of the people. We know the Deputy General Secretary, for example, Dr. Otokuno, didn't make it, but you did. What did the trick?
Thank you very much. Your line is a bit strange. I can't hear you very well, but I hope that if you could make it a bit louder.
Okay. Is it better now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better now.
Okay. I'm asking, there are others who contended but did not make it, like the former Deputy General Secretary, Dr. Otokuno. And I'm trying to find out, what do you feel did the trick for you?
Thank you very much. First of all, I take this opportunity to thank NDC Party for the very successful organization of our Congress. And to say that some of us have worked for the party over the years, and we have dedicated our time and everything working for this party. Party people have seen our commitment and loyalty, and they believe that whatever work they give to us, we are able to discharge it. And so it's no surprising that I have been able to win again, especially when I contested for the same position that I was occupying. And if you look at those who contested me, you realize that I was the only person who has the national experience as the incumbent Deputy General Secretary, because my colleague Peter moved up to contest for the main General Secretary. And so most of the delegates believe that with the experience and the institutional memory that I had and the work that I had done for the party in the past 4 years, it was very necessary that I remained in that office so that whoever became the General Secretary, I will be there to give that person the necessary support. And also whoever became the other Deputy General Secretary could also learn from me, since that person will be coming to the office for the first time. And I think that is what works for me largely. and also because of my dedication and commitment to the party.
Are you then happy with the number of votes you secured?
Very, very happy. Because even though last 4 years I was the first deputy, you can see that I have increased my votes by almost 800. It's very exciting because it is not always that you get it like that. If people have confidence in you and the confidence builds up, it gives you the energy to keep working hard because you know that what you are doing has been appreciated. I'm very, very grateful for that and very excited about it.
When you look at the other appointees or elected people together with you, what picture does it create? Does it paint the picture of readiness to wrest power from the MPP come 2024? You remember that the MPP, in delivering its solidarity message, said that, you know what, regardless of what happened on Saturday, they were going to trounce you in 2024. Do you feel the crop of leadership you have now is going to make the cut to prevent the MPP from breaking the 8?
You know, all those of us who contested, we had a message, and we sent our message around the 276 constituencies to sell our message to the delegates. They listened to our messages, and every NDC member, what they wanted was victory. And once they have carefully selected us to leave the party, I believe that they themselves are very confident in our ability to lead the party to victory. And I can see that this is a team that can really, really make the difference and bring us the victory that we are looking for. If you look at the caliber of people who have won as national executives, none of them is a new person. Our national chairman now has been the general secretary for the past 17 years. He is now the national chairman. He has all the experience that he needs to run that office. Honorable Fifi Kwete, who is the general secretary now, has been the propaganda secretary, and it was during his time that we won the 2008 election. I'm sure Ghanaians still remember the setting the record straight that happened at that time. If you look at the national organizer, Honorable Yamin, he has also been a veteran in this game. And so the youth organizer has been retained, the woman organizer has been retained, the communication officer was lucky enough to go on the post. And so I believe that the delegates have selected very, very effective and efficient group of national executives who are already had the experience to be able to carry on with the work that we are supposed to do. And so I believe that whatever happens, we are coming to power 2024, especially when the government itself has really, really disappointed Ghanaians.
Before I find out what personally you would be bringing to bear when it comes to the position you've been elected to and what we can expect from the party, I just want to find out from you, the chairmanship position, two giants came to the fight. The grass suffered, but one of those elephants won. Johnson Esiedun Ketia. What do you make of that contest and what happened? Your old chairman is gone and Johnson is now the chairman.
Well, if you ask me, I would say that, like you said, there are two people who are very experienced politicians. Both had their strengths leading the party. One was the very calm, he had a very calm demeanor. The other one is firebrand. And so if party people believe that at the point where we find ourselves, it is a firebrand that we need to lead the party. I think it's well accepted, but I don't think that the other person lost because he didn't perform. Everybody knows that he played his role very well. He led the party very, very effectively. However, if the delegates believe that at this point in time, we rather need a very vibrant, firebrand person to lead the party into 2024 elections, so be it. And we are also all going to give him the necessary support, the support that we gave to the outgoing national chairman for him to succeed. We are going to give the new chairman the same support. Just that the difference is their leadership style. And that is what I believe. But both of them are very strong people, and I know that they'll be able to do the work.
Finally, before you take leave of us, what can we expect from you in your role? What can we expect from the NDC moving forward? The cracks have shown, from Cape Coast. What can we expect by way of unity, by way of leading Ghana in future. That is what you are positioning yourselves for.
In every election, there will be cracks. But after the election, definitely efforts will be made to make sure that bridges we straighten up and then pass our differences and move on. I believe that the outborn national chairman was a unifier, and that is one thing that anybody cannot take away from him. And so if today he is the one who is out, I know that whatever it takes for him to come back on board, whatever role will be given to him, he will play. The same applies to all the others who could not make it. I believe that whatever role is assigned to them, they will all come on board, and then we'll have a very strong front to go for the task ahead. NDC is a party that no matter what happens, we are able to come back together. And I believe this time will not be different, especially if you look at the people who are involved themselves, who are peace-loving and in themselves unifiers. It will not be too difficult for us to come together.
Barbara Sewa Asamoah is Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. Thank you so much for your time. And she joined us for that conversation. Interesting thoughts. You were midstream and I cut you, so it's only fair that I come back to you. And when you're done, all of us will contemplate the new crop of executives of the party and what we see that they could deliver moving forward. But back to you.
Right, so I was talking about the fact that, when we look at the messaging that the elected chairman put up, it was an issue of trying to let his followers, the delegates, know that, the accusations leveled against him, i.e. that he went into the petition, without evidence, was a fallacy and something that they cannot use against him. So he decided to throw, the fact as it is into the public domain. But one thing that I'm happy about the messaging of all the competitors was the fact that, unlike previous elections where insults and blames and other things, characterized such elections, we couldn't see it, in this NDC, national executive election. And I think that it is one good thing that we cannot take away from them. And you see, I'm happy because I believe in internal politics. I believe in internal campaigns. But sometimes issues of appropriation becomes very important. When you level an allegation against your own colleague, and it turns out that that person wins, then, of course, the national voter may rely on that and use it against the party. So normally it is very important that you learn how to, even unite, going into an election, an internal election, before, you even hit the ground. And so I think that NDC has come a long way with this, and I commend them for that. The second issue about, strategy was also prominent in their election. I mean, because of my background, I believe in political relationships, relationship between candidates and voters, relationship between political parties and voters, relationship between, members of a political party. Very, very important. And if you know how to micromanage these things, it always pulls some kind of crowd, for you. And I think that, when you check, we were talking about the issue about Fifi Kwete, for the fact that, he went into hibernation and we were not hearing of him and that kind of stuff. I think that he had a plan. And so when he stepped down from his constituency not to contest, he knew that he would one day go for the general secretaryship position. So he started working his way out. And so, you see, on Saturday, I was on one media station doing the analysis. And it was interesting, the comments that people were making and projecting a straight fight between Fifi Kwete and
Elvis
Yankra. Right. But I said, no, they should watch out for Otokuno. Why? Because I felt that the relationship could work for him. the relationship capital that he has built would work for him.
And we saw a bit of that. So Fifi won, but Otokuno came in second before obviously Free Ankara, who was
even
third.
at a point in time, Otokuno was leading,
right?
And people thought he was going to make it. All right. So you realize that what worked for him was that kind of relational thing that he also had established with the grassroots. And so I think that strategies, messaging, and other stuff, play a key role in determining, victories in political campaigns.
So to wrap the conversation, gentlemen, a minute each so we can wrap. Looking at the crop of leaders, Johnson Asiedu Nketia at the helm of affairs, First Vice Awudu Safo Azoka, Dr. Sherry Aite, who has served as minister before in there. Then we have Abanga Yakubu Al-Hassan, whose brother, interestingly, is in the MPP and contested, during their last Congress. Fifi Kwete. Then we have Barbara, with whom I just spoke. Joseph Yamin, national organizer. Sami Jemfi retained. Godwin Akogan, Malik Basentale, in fact, the substantive, and then Godwin Akogan, among others. Also a deputy communication officer and youth organizer, Giorgio Pariado. What is the picture when you look at these leaders of the NDC going into election 2024? What do you see in a minute? And that question is for all of you gentlemen. That's how we'll wrap the conversation.
So I'll quickly just focus on two of them, Mr. Sami Jemfi, because these two are the ones that I follow their work very closely.
Right.
So Mr. Sami Jemfi, young, extremely passionate about the party, very articulate, very on top of the issues. So he definitely does bring that, those qualities, to the party and to the group that has been elected to serve the party. And then, of course, there's General Mosquito, right? Mr. Asiedu Nketia, who has seen it all. He's been there when they've lost. He's been there when they've won. He's seen them through their best days. He's seen them through some of their not so best days. And
right.
so I think he also brings that rich party history experience, groundwork, all of that to bring to bear upon what they have to do between now and 2024. So I think they have put together a group, but like I said, the two that are most familiar with their work are real assets to the party, and I believe can bring a lot, to this leadership group that they've put together as they prepare for 2024.
For you, Dr. Kwame Asasante.
If you look at the people who have been elected, there's one thing that is common to all of them. Their desire to win the next election. That is the driving force. And that is the pivot around which all of them are going to revolve their activities. The other issue is that if you look at them carefully, they are people of strategy. Asiedu Nketia, Fifi Kwete, the rest of them. They always believe in strategy. And that is something that will change the tide for them if they are able to put them together effectively. The issue of all of them also having something to do with the rank and file, all right? They believe in the grassroots. That is where the votes are. And if you look at Asiedu Nketia, Fifi Kwete, the rest of them, they are always in touch with the grassroots. And for me, that is a spirit that is going to behind this this machine, electoral machine that they put together now for the battle 2024. The last of all the issues that I want to touch on is their organizational skills. If you look at them, they all have under their sleeves organizational skills. Even those who have lost, Free Ankara, for instance, if you look at his statement that he made, all based on his rich experience and then his organizational skills. I can't take away from all of them, their mean and all that they have. And above all, their ability to articulate their messages clearly. And Sami Jemfi and all of them have all these things. I believe that they have all a good make. The important thing is how they organize things for an effect. And I believe that as they now begin duty, leaders of the party, they will begin to reflect on all these things and put them together, having at the back of their minds that they need data. And Fifi Kwete touch on that he will serve the people with data that is necessary for them to win the battle of 2024.
Thank you for those thoughts. I'll wrap with you, Dr. Tutu Buahin.
All right, so for me, the most important thing is not about, the people that they have elected, but the most important thing is how these people can coordinate and work together. Strategy is strategy, and you don't go into electoral competition without looking at, strategy. But strategy should be linked, to your cohort, to your constituents, and to your targets. And so, depending on who you are targeting, you formulate a strategy, to reach out to them. And I also believe that one of the key things, which strategy talks about these days, has to do with the youth and how you can attract them. Because the youth these days, when it comes to political interest, it is slowing down amongst them because of the fact that they don't really, understand certain things in politics and what politicians are doing. So if your strategy will target them and then reach out to them, and then you get them behind you to work. But unity is important in all these things. And I would probably want to recommend to the party and to all those who won and those who didn't win, to come together. I mean, Temofu Ampofo had experiences with this position. And whatever it is, he can't say that he is going to sleep because he was not elected or he's not the man in charge. Again, my good friend Otokuno also cannot say that, because I was not elected, so I'm not going in there. And whoever, all those people, this is the time that if NDC is focusing on 2024 and winning the 2024 election, I mean, they need to come together and work as a team.
Mm. And of course, we saw that statement from Ofosu Ampofo himself, complaining about some things that happened, but also saying that it was a time to come together as a party and putting himself at the service of the party. Gentlemen, we are grateful that you could join us for this conversation. In the studio, Dr. Bernard Tutu Buahin, lecturer, political marketing consultant with the University of Education, Winneba. Dr. Osai Kwapong, our old friend, a CDD fellow. Thank you so much. And joining us via Zoom, we had Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, political science lecturer, I should say, and head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana. We also had joining the conversation Barbara Sewa Samoa, Deputy General Secretary, elect, or at least now sworn in, of the party. Thank you all, gentlemen, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Well, having exhausted that first leg of the conversation, we get ready for the second leg of the conversation, which has to do with the Burkina Faso escalation, the impasse between Ghana and Burkina Faso. Now, the Burkinabe ambassador to Ghana has been withdrawn, and these are turbulent international waters that we seem to be swimming against the current. But what is going to happen, especially as our president has accused them of using mercenaries from the Wagner group in Burkina Faso? Is this going to lead to some sort of escalation? And was it responsible or reprehensible on the part of our president to go down that road? More on that after the break. Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Now we get to the second belt of the conversation, and as announced, we're talking about the now frosty relationship between Ghana and its neighbor, Burkina Faso. What caused this? And now with the simmering tensions, what do we do moving forward? We have joining the conversation Professor Kwesi Ening. Prof, a very good morning to you. It's been a while. I hope you've been keeping well.
Oh, well, now that I'm an old man, I try to keep very well. I intend to grow old and happy seeing my great-grandchildren and, contribute to generating knowledge. So yeah, I'm really very well.
We thank God for that. I don't know about old, though. Every time I see you, it seems you've grown a year younger. But I don't know what it is that you do or what it is that you take. But you must share those secrets before some of us get to where you are.
Good.
Okay, so I've heard you speak briefly on this matter over the weekend on this outburst, so to speak, of our president. I'll start from the standpoint of where this was said in Washington, D.C., as he met with other African leaders and the United States, and whether bringing this up was essential, was politically correct.
Well, thank you very much. The location, Washington. If you look at the setup of the meeting and the body language of the Ghanaian team, two things come out. One, that this was supposed to be a fairly closed bilateral meeting, and that probably the Ghanaian team was not expecting that it will be recorded. Second is that when these statements were made by His Excellency the President, you could see from the body language of the Ghanaian team a sense of surprise and a bit of consternation. So this, although there were papers in front of His Excellency, I'm not sure if this was an off-the-cuff remark and a sense of concern. But whatever it is, the fact that this has come out creates quite some difficulties for Ghana with respect to our relations with Burkina Faso. But I want us to really take our time and disaggregate the sequencing of what he said about the Wagner Group, about mines, that the president of a sovereign nation had visited a bilateral partner, and the assertion that the fact that they are on our northern borders poses particular concerns. So if you would give me 2 or 3 minutes, I would like to disaggregate this step by step.
Go ahead, Prof.
First, I think the Burkinabe president has a right under all circumstances to visit Moscow and to seek for support. That is the legitimate right of a sovereign head of state who feels threatened, whose government has been under consistent pressure with almost 60% of his country under the control of jihadists. So that move to seek for external partners to bring cohesion to the response to the jihadist threat is legitimate under international praxis. The second was the assertion about Ghana's very bold, strong, consistent statements, both in the General Assembly and in the UN Security Council. If you look at the voting patterns, Ghana's voting pattern did not, was not particularly exceptional, because more than 2/3 of other African states have consistently voted to condemn the Russians. So there was really bringing that up in that meeting. I'm sure Blinken and his team would wonder, as to what was so exceptional about it. Let me make this point and make it clear. Mercenaries or private military companies have had a long history in international politics. Mercenaries, as we knew them until around 2000, 2005, when the nomenclature
private military companies came into play is that no mercenary group without an express invitation either by a sovereign government or by an opposition leader who seeks to undermine the incumbent has ever invaded a country.
Right.
Furthermore, the narratives around the Wagner Group distorts the picture.
How so?
We know that the French Legion was even more violent and brutal than the Wagner Group. So France has no right. France established the French Legion, a dangerous mismatch of individuals from different countries to expound French foreign policy in dangerously vicious ways that the French state could not be aligned with. So Wagner is basically, and Mr. Putin are basically following in the French footsteps. Furthermore, the role of Wagner in the last 3 to 4 weeks in Burkina Faso has been to target specific cells and specific concentrations of jihadist groups. That has led to some outflow, some of which I think we have seen in Ghana.
Right.
So the capacity of Wagner to deliver is very key. Being on the northern border is not a threat. A real threat to our security are the internal dynamics. So we need to be careful not to distort where we need to place the emphasis of where our preparations must be. Our preparations must be building resilient communities, providing information, creating a sense of inclusion, and equipping the frontline institutions, customs, police, all those institutions, then the army. We don't seem in Ghana to have a sense of urgency when it comes to this situation. I've spent the past 1 week or so traveling probably close to 2,500 kilometers in the northern part of Ghana. Not once in any of the 5 regions was I stopped at any barrier.
And those definitely are concerns. Just hold for me briefly. Just hold for me briefly, Prof. Let me also take the initial thoughts of Dr. Vladimir Nchidanso on this matter. Doc, can you hear me?
Clear.
Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Great. I know you're pressed for time, so we'll do this very quickly so I can continue with Prof as well. I'd like to find out from you, from where we've come to meet this conversation, would you say where our president mentioned it and how he mentioned it and whether this should have even come out as it has? Was it all put together a bad gaffe? Was this a political misstep?
Well, in any case, the situation was bad. It was not at that forum that we should be mentioning this thing. And if we were seriously worried about the presence of Wagner in Burkina, there could have been a quiet kind of diplomacy, a talk to Burkina for Burkina to assure us that they wouldn't present any security threat to us or whatever it is. But to openly at that forum make it believe as if Burkina was wrong in the first place, bringing in Wagner. Wagner is Russian, and that they also pose a threat to us. And as if, as it were, we were begging the Americans to be on the standby to help us if Wagner attacks. In any case, international law-wise and international relations-wise, Wagner would not be in a position to attack Ghana in any way. There is not an iota of suspicion that Wagner would have to be attacking Ghana. Wagner is a non-governmental organization, it's a non-state organization, a private organization, supported openly actually by Russians anyway, who are hired to fight wars, period. And every country has the right to do such a thing. Because Blackwater was hired by the Americans, an American organization, We did all the dirty work in Iraq and Libya. So Wagner being hired is no crime in international relations. They're there to help the government to fulfill its aim of territoriality and, and engaging the jihadists. So for our president to make this as if where we are under siege was a little unfortunate. And you saw the reaction. Burkina recalled the ambassador from Ghana and also protested to our ambassador over there. And this thing shouldn't have come at all. In any case, I was personally against even the 49 African delegation, the heads of delegation that attended the summit, which had no agenda. The only agenda is that, hey, Africa has come. Let me tell you what to do where China and Russia are concerned. It's ridiculous. And that's why Kagame was very much incensed and angry.
Tell me.
Yes.
Right. So tell me, this entire enterprise, from the picture that Professor Edding and you, Professor Vladimir Nchidanso, have painted, the Malians as a sovereign state have every right to do this. Was this then a situation of what maybe former President Mills said, may his soul rest in peace, Ziufiasem, especially as there's no real threat to us, though I hear there was a shooting at our border with Burkina Faso recently. Was that not enough to want to highlight the situation?
Absolutely not. The shooting, have we investigated? Was it from Wagner? Obviously, there will be people who will be running away from the jihadists into Ghana, into Niger, into any other country nearby. And so if we see people running away, the efflux of migrants, that does not mean that it is Wagner which is doing that, which is chasing them, And yes, Mali has every right to import any other organization to come help them. And Mali has thrown the French away just because they felt the French were not helping. So has Burkina Faso invited the Wagner group also. Central African Republic invited them. So we didn't have to make a deal out of the whole thing. Yes, the Ziufiasem, the contexts are different. And I think we were not happy with President Mills because in international law, say pacta sub servanda. Once you signed a pact or an agreement, go to it, tenancy, obey. He was in Abuja to sign the declaration that enjoined us to mobilize troops for Côte d'Ivoire. And you come back and say, as for me, I'm not mobilizing troops. That is bad. That context was completely bad. You can't say Ziufiasem in any way. But the Ziufiasem can be a principle for foreign policy. America has been there before. Before 1945, they had this principle of isolation. I mean, they didn't want to interfere in global affairs. It was part of their principle. And even in 1918, when the League of Nations was being formed, it was their president who brought the 14 points. But when he went back, they told him that, look, we don't want to be meddling in global affairs. So that kind of Ziufiasem policy is always there for countries to emulate. But today, Americans have this containment policy since the Cold War, and it's not ended. They want to contain China and Russia in Africa. And we are gleefully happy to be part of that containment policy. That is what worries some of us.
Are you suggesting we're being used as pawns?
Exactly.
So there's a major chess game going on between the world powers or superpowers, and we are caught there as a pawn. That's what you're saying.
We are not caught there. We are even being used. We are telling us what to do. Look at the theme of this year's summit. The theme was clear, containing China and Russia in Africa. But I thought what we'll be doing and what I was expecting of our president and any other president is this: that can we be the light of Africa to let Africa play its role in global politics? We have brought in the AFTA, the Africa Free Trade Area, right? Which is an organization that would make Africa one. What Nkrumah envisages, our Pan-Africanist fervor, who is taking the mantle? One Africa, one foreign policy, those policies that will make Africa Africa, an African bank, etc., etc. Now, as a customs union, can we now talk as one instead of 49 African leaders going to sit before Biden and Biden promises $2.5 billion so that we don't manufacture fertilizers? 35 billion so that we will be fighting jihadists
Right.
and things like that. I mean, come on. When will somebody take this Pan-Africanist agenda and tell the world that we Africans, we don't want, like Nkrumah said, no testing of bombs in Africa. And we went on that tangent until France stopped testing bombs, atomic bombs in southern Algeria. Can somebody can Ghana just look into the face of the Bidens and tell them what Africa wants or what Africa needs, instead of them telling us what we need and what they also want us to do? I mean, it's something I just don't understand. Today I was listening to the former AU representative at the UN, Mrs. Kwao, and she was forthright. She was saying that, look, they continue to use us as part of their agenda setting. Why can't we set the agenda? And we meet them. There's China-Africa Forum. There's France-Africa Forum. There is Turkey-Africa Forum. There is US-Africa Forum. Why can't we tell them what we need and what we want them to do? If they can't do it, bye-bye, and that kind of thing. But we always go and we are like begging them, see, we need that, and can you help us? And then they will tell you, stop China. You know, it's a game being played. And right now, the game rules have changed. It is trade. Trade is not the current political economy of the world is trade induced, and China is playing it very well. Last year, they invested $269 billion in Africa alone, whilst America invested only $64 billion. You know, now they tell you Chinese investment is wrong because human rights are not part of it. Democracy is not part of it. Whose values?
Interesting dynamics you bring to bear. But right before I go to Professor Edding and let go of you, because again, you are pressed for time, I'd just like to find out from you. You mentioned Nkrumah and what he did during his time, no testing of bombs and all of that. We started the non-aligned movement. We've gone on a tangent of neutrality for a large portion of our national life. Has this been compromised now with what our president has done? If you look at the response from the Burkinabe authorities, they say Ghana could have undertaken exchanges with the Burkinabe authorities on the security issue in order to have the right information. Have we shot ourselves in the foot?
Well, my initial statement, I just said so, that we could have gone on the quiet diplomacy to see what the problem is in Burkina Faso, and we could have negotiated whatever it is if we have security concerns. But we didn't do that, and we went, one way or the other, I think I will agree with you, we went bam, 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 to show the whole world that, America, we are with you, so kind of. And that's bad. It's in bad state. Our neutrality somehow seems to be compromised one way or the other. By our pledge to the Americans, we will go with you no matter what, and kind of, and you to do this for us.
What steps then, in some 30 seconds, what steps then do we do to remedy the situation?
No, the point is that I think it was a gaffe, and such situations, if it becomes permanent, if every step we take, tomorrow we sign an agreement with them, buying their arms and ammunition, tomorrow there is a contingent from the U.S. Army doing this, and if there is some permanency, then it will be seen that, oh, fine, we have completely, and you know, international relations is a little fluid. It's not the case that we're going to go on this tangent forever. There may come a government who does not want to do anything with the U.S. There may come a government who want to do everything with the Chinese and that. So the fluidity of foreign policy in terms of needs and wants would show where your lines are going. So I don't think this is the end of our relationship with the rest of the world.
Prof, we're grateful for your time. Professor Vladimir Nchidanso is an international relations expert. Professor Edding, hello, Prof?
Yes, hello. Yes, I'm here.
Great. Taking off from where your colleague just left us, what do you think this does for us? We all accept it was in poor taste what happened, but does this compromise our neutrality, like he says? And moving forward, what remedial measures can we bring to bear now that the Burkinabe authorities have recalled their ambassador to us and our ambassador has been summoned? I mean, this will be international relations processes that will be triggered. What do we do to set ourselves back in a positive light with our neighbor?
Well, I think there's been quite a long-term weakening of Ghana's international position. I mean, if you remember, when Ghana held the chair of ECOWAS, there were 3 coups d'etats during that period and a couple of failed coup attempts. Not only that, I think ECOWAS was meeting in Accra, and the collective intelligence chiefs of ECOWAS could not prompt their leaders in Accra that there was something happening in Burkina Faso. And the subsequent problem that Burkina faced, ECOWAS has never been able to do anything. Actually, the last time ECOWAS's delegation went to Burkina, they were hooted at. So the Burkinabes and also the Malians feel that they have been left in the lurch by their compatriots. And therein lies this issue of neutrality and Ghana's role thereof. The suspicions that have arisen among several ECOWAS countries because of this tape, and I think it would be very nice to find out whether it ought to have been recorded or not, is that we are perceived, particularly by quite a number of the Francophone countries, that we are not a trusted partner. And it comes to undermine the Accra Initiative, of which Burkina Faso is a key player. The Accra Initiative, in which a major conference was held in Accra about 3 weeks ago, seeks to share information and to build trust and confidence amongst the West African states, probably 5 or 6 of them. So for the originator of the initiative to undermine a critical partner in that initiative, privately during an international conversation, raises questions of trust.
You're saying that President Akufo-Addo, by bringing this up as the originator of the Accra Initiative, was undermining his own initiative. That's what you're saying.
Dramatically. Okay, and I think we need to ask ourselves who has been the real driver behind the Accra Initiative. And I think it is this individual, Kandapa, who must be emboldened and given the mandate to use backdoor channels to recreate trust. But it's not going to be easy at all, because the Burkinabes will be seeking assurances and reassurances that we are not using Ghana as a staging post, A, to watch what they are doing, B, to continue to undermine them, because the French will be very happy concerning this statement. And I think we should be very careful, as Vladimir was saying, that we don't put ourselves in a position where we satisfy other national interests, but our own medium to long-term national interests are undermined. This is a dangerous game that we are playing, and we need Mr. Kandapa's mature, firm, stable hand to try to recreate the trust and the openness amongst the partners of the Accra Initiative.
So we need the National Security Minister to come in here to intervene, basically.
Yes. He has the maturity, he has the style, he has the self-effacedness, he has the networks that he has built over time based on trust. And I think he is the best person to really lead this backdoor initiative of recreating trust.
Well, our only hope is that in the end, we'll be able to restore that trust, especially where we find ourselves in the sub-region, and forge ahead in union, because some of these countries are far away, but we have neighbors right next door, and we don't look forward to any consequences. Prof, we're grateful for your time, and it's actually refreshing to have spoken to you after so long once more. Merry Christmas in advance.
a very Merry Christmas to you.
All right.
Thank you.
And that is Professor Kwesi Ening as well. So Professor Vladimir Chidanso spoken to earlier, and Professor Kwesi Ening, both of them sharing their thoughts on this matter. But tellingly, the last bit, Akufo-Addo's actions undermine Accra Initiative. That is what Professor Kwesi Ening was saying. Before we take a break and return with some more action on the AM show, we all know water is life. It regulates your body temperature and keeps you alive and kicking. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. We have the perfect sizes for all occasions: 330 ml, 500 ml bottles to fit your pockets and bags, 750 ml for the heavy drinkers, and 1.5 liters for those who always want more. We have also introduced our special 19-liter jars for offices and homes. Now, you just need to stay awake with Awake Purified Drinking Water wherever you go. So come on, grab a bottle of Awake water and get quality hydration. Awake Purified Drinking Water, one for life. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. It's produced by Casapreco. For bulk purchases, please call 0262 351 251. This advert is FDA approved. And at this juncture, I do have to reach out for my Awake Drinking Water. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back on the AM show after that much needed drink. Time now to talk about the Head of State Award Scheme, which provides a non-formal education and learning framework for the development of young people and communities. It's founded by His Royal Highness Prince Philip, and it provides a global accreditation to activities, initiatives, and projects led by young people outside the classroom. On the 19th of December 2022, President Akufo-Addo will host and present the Gold Award to 202 young achievers who have fulfilled all the requirements of the gold level of the scheme. Well, joining us to expand on that, give us further scope on this conversation, we have Peter A. Enum, Executive Director of HOSA. We also have Edwin Kimani, Global Operations Director of the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award Foundation. Peter, Edwin, thank you so much for joining the conversation.
It's a pleasure.
So let's start about what this award scheme is all about. Seeing His Royal Highness Prince Philip in there, and then the Head of State Awards. I'll start with, whom do I start with? I'll start with you.
Thank you very much.
What is the scheme all about?
Thank you very much for giving us this particular opportunity to speak more about the award. Just like you have captured very well, this was a program that was started back in 1956 by the late...
1956?
Yes, by the late Duke of Edinburgh, Prince Philip.
Right.
And the essence of it was to give young people an opportunity to connect with their future, their communities, and themselves. And so we are a framework that gives young people opportunity to come with their own programs that will definitely make them fit for purpose. So in a nutshell, that's what the award is all about. It started back in the UK in 1956, then grew to other parts of the world in 1958. And currently we are running in over 130 countries and territories. In Africa, Ghana is one of the 18 very strong countries running the program. And I'm happy to say here that Ghana is one of the pillar countries. Ghana has been able to achieve what it has achieved through the very able patronage of His Excellency the President Akufo-Addo.
For you, Peter, why is the award scheme so important?
Well, thank you very much. The award scheme is so important because, like you rightly said in your introduction, not all learning occurs in the classroom. And especially when many corporate organizations are talking about the skills gap. You know, it is very, very absolutely important to ensure that young people that we channel out of, our educational system and out of our communities to fit into future, employment organizations are well groomed and well trained. All right, and for us to achieve that, we need a holistic approach to development. Not just the lessons and knowledge we gain in the classroom, but must also pay attention to the little things and activity initiative young people get involved outside the wall of the classroom, right? And so it's all about ensuring that young people are well developed holistically, right? Beyond the wall of the classroom, learning the values of volunteerism, learning the values of patriotism, learning how to get things done for themselves and by themselves without any, when we're in school, when we're in sections, and if you don't have your sectional teacher there to tell you to go and sweep, you will not go and sweep. But just imagine half of our youthful population beginning to get things done by themselves without necessarily waiting for any adult to direct them on what to do. You can just imagine how our workforce will look like. And so basically... And
even the orientation, the mindset of these young people growing.
Exactly. And so it is so important because, and even more relevant now, looking at the dispensation in which we are, right? And so it's a framework that we cannot chip in it or lessen its importance at all, especially in the diversity of youth development and achieving of the sustainable development goals as a country.
Right. Yeah. A very quick top up, staying with you, Peter. How does it work? I'm sure people are listening and wondering, okay, watching us and wondering, they are saying all of these things, but how does it work? If I wanted to participate, for example, someone out there, how does it work?
It's a very simple approach. First of all, you must be a young person between 14 years to 24 years.
Okay.
That is a minimum. All right. The next thing is to...
It appears I don't qualify.
Well,
please go ahead. That was just on the lighter side.
and your siblings and your... won't qualify, why that age? Because, like Edwin Riley said, we're looking at the developmental aspect of youth development. And so this age is the formative years where young people form behaviors, form attitude, and make decisions. All right. And so if the program is about developing them for their future life and work, then it is absolutely important that we look at the formative years so that they grow along with it. And so it is designed for 14 to 24 years. That is the only barrier. Beyond that, it doesn't matter whether you are from a rich background or from a poor background. As long as you want to challenge yourself, you just sign up to it and then you get on with the activities.
14 to 24, 10-year window. And I know there are going to be many of you who would want to participate. But coming back to you, Edwin, so apart from the age descriptor, 14 to 25, that bracket, what other things do you look out for? I heard you initially were talking about the Gold Award and all of that. Give us some scope on that.
What we normally do is first, like Peter has said, that not all learning happens in the classroom. And this is purely a very voluntary program. Because if you look at the life of a young person between the age of 14 to 25, we normally sometimes refer to it as waiterhood, that you're waiting to get to a particular age to be able to make certain decisions. You're waiting to be an adult to get married or to marry. There are all those things that basically are going to happen in the future. And so what the award does is to prepare you at the onset to be able to take responsibility, to make decisions at a very, very early age. And so what we do is to encourage any young person, wherever they are, and Peter has rightly said, it doesn't matter your background, as long as you are interested and you're going to commit and you're going to stick to what you undertake. So we have mainly 4 main programs. We have community engagement, physical development, leadership development, and we have physical engagement. And so what we ask of you is to make a decision. What is it I want to do for each of the programs that I've mentioned? And then you set up your own targets. You identify who is going to be my mentor. And you agree, what are my targets? For example...
So there's a mentorship system.
Yeah, mentorship system. Right. For example, somebody might say, I would like to be a news presenter like yourself. Then they will identify you and say, can you help me? What does it take to basically, be a presenter? Then you will work with that young person. In a week, for example, the young person is going to invest 2 hours. They're going to set a target and say, at the beginning, I might do it with a few people, and then at the end, I can actually be in a TV show. So that is my target. And so again, the person will look at community engagement and say, who is my community? What do I want to do for community? And what is my investment? And what is my connection with the community? So a young person is allowed to make decisions at a very early age. They're allowed to fail. We don't use the word like failure. We call that a challenge. If they can't make it, they feel this was too hard for me, too easy for me, they are allowed to refocus, to reset and start afresh. So ideally, we don't push because classroom is prescriptive. Non-formal education is a framework, but then you make a decision about what is it I want to do. And research has shown that people are best in the things they're able to connect with themselves, about themselves. And that's why you find that an excellent doctor was a person who realized from the onset that that is my area of focus. A person who's a great athlete will know that this is because I connected with it at the early stage. So the award complements education, and we work very closely together to make sure that we have what we call an A character and A student in the things that we do. And if you think about the society today, more than any other time, we are looking for effective economic change engines. And so that's what the award contributes towards the development of young people.
Quick top up. So this evening, the main event is happening. Gold Award, 202 young people who are going to be presented with these awards by Mr. President himself, I assume. Where is this happening and who else will be there?
Ideally, in every event like this, first is the recognition of the role young people play in the development of the nation. Two is recognizing the effort that they have put in achieving the goal level, which is our highest level. And we know very well that by the time one gets to finish their goal, they have committed a minimum of 18 months.
Wow.
18 months.
A year and a half.
Yes, yeah. 18 months. And they worked very hard, and it has been approved that they have attained that particular level. And these are the young people who then are able to reflect on our impact, what we call the social return on investment, and what contribution have they done to society. The reason why it is officiated by the highest office of the land, it is because of the place of young people globally. That every young person looks for recognition. Even a small toddler who is walking around, crawling, they are looking for affirmation from their parents. So for us, we are strong believers that character is key to the development of any nation. And so the highest office of the land officiating this event is basically a big plus for the young people of Ghana and the world. And so worldwide, we always have the highest office of the land officiating this particular event. And I want to congratulate the 202 young Ghanaians who are getting this award, because they will also go a long way joining the alumni, the global alumni, and continue to contribute towards this particular society.
Globally, I mean, I'm just curious. I'm sure there are thousands or tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of alumni, right?
Yes.
Right, yes. Right. Coming to you then, Peter, is there any way these young people can reach out to you who wish to take on the award challenge, or parents who might be interested in getting more information? How do they go about it?
Yes, but thank you very much. Before I share where they can reach out, let me quickly add on to what Benjamin Riley said. Again, as a secretary, we also believe in celebrating persons, not just young people. And so this evening we would also be celebrating some individuals who have been legendary, who have driven gender issues, and people who have achieved solving our societal problem with the Young Achievers Innovators Award, right? And so we are not just celebrating 202 young people, we are also celebrating about 18 individuals who have also done exceptionally well in their areas of expertise. And all this is made possible with the support of, if you allow, Ghana Commercial Bank, KGL Foundation. We also have B5 Plus, and then Techno, Ghana supporting this year's initiative. If you're a young person out there and you want to challenge yourself, you want to get yourself involved in the award program, just log on to www.hosagana.org, www.hosagana.org.
So www.hosagana.org.
As one word.
As one word. HOSA Ghana.
HOSA Ghana.
Is the Ghana a capital G or a small G?
Small G. Small G. .com. .org. Right. And all the necessary information is there. Our contact details are there. You can drop us an email and we'll pick it up from there. The award works with award centers. So every young person who wants to participate will ideally be attached to an award center which is closer to him or her or in his community, which is also led by an adult leader we call the award coordinators, who become their mentors, their guides, and then support them through their award journey. So it's a support right from the beginning through to the end.
All right. 10 seconds each to wrap up. Final words.
I think for me, the biggest gift we can give to the world today is to do something for a young person. And if there's any golden opportunity that we have, is to reset the globe. And we can only do that with the future generation. And that's the young people. That's what I would say.
All right. For you?
I would want to call on all corporates and individuals who believe in the infinite potential of young people to partner with us, to collaborate with us. We need more supporters. We need more mentors. We need more adult leaders to help us channel the energies of young people into something productive. An investment in the young people of Ghana is an investment in Ghana.
It's interesting because even as we talk about all the other things, terrorism and other things going on in our sub-region, yes, we need to occupy our young people in positive endeavors. This definitely is one of them.
Absolutely.
An idle hand is the devil's toolbox.
Absolutely.
Or workshop. Well, so that has been Peter Enum, Executive Director at HOSA, and Edwin Kimani, Global Operations Director with the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award Foundation. Before we take a breather and take some of your comments and wrap the show, just watch this from the Head of State Awards. Well, the time does fly, doesn't it? You know what? You can put the blame on me. Yeah, you can put the blame on me, like Akon said. We've run out of time, and so we cannot take any of your comments, but we'll try. We'll try to do that tomorrow. But right before we go, the Ghana Revenue Authority wishes to inform the public that persons wishing to apply for tax clearance certificates should do so online or download the Ghana Taxpayers app on the Google Play Store or the App Store. Applicants who visit our taxpayer service centers will be assisted by officers of the authority to apply. And applicants are also required to indicate the taxpayer identification number, that is the TIN, of the institution or organization requesting the certificate so that they can receive a copy. Applicants should take note and be guided accordingly. Reach out to the GRA on their toll-free number 0800 900 110 or via WhatsApp numbers 055 299 0000 or 0200 631 664, or reach out to them on gra.gov.gh for further inquiries. At the same time, the Ghana Revenue Authority also wishes to inform the general public, especially persons registered for value-added tax, that the Domestic Tax Revenue Division has commenced the implementation of an electronic invoicing system of VAT, referred to as e-VAT. All you have to do, reach out again to the GRA on their toll-free number, that is 0800 900 110, via WhatsApp on 055 990 000 or 0200 631 664 for further information. And so you can reach out to the GRA on these numbers and get all the information you need. Right before we go, let's celebrate someone's birthday. And of course, we'll start with Hilda Amenyo, my own sister, good friend. A happy birthday to you. I did it earlier. I'm doing it again. You're one fantastic person. She's the person behind a lot of the frames and lenses I use, and I'm very grateful to you. Also celebrating, this is going out to Kofi Inti. Kofi Inti, you are personal assistant to Alexander Akwesi Akwa, Member of Parliament for Achem Oda constituency. From them and from us to you, happy birthday, Kofi Inti. And on that note, we wrap the AM show for another beautiful morning. Hopefully, you've enjoyed the show. Every day we try to do better, and that's what I'm going to try to do tomorrow. In the meantime, we leave you in the hands of the Joy News Desk crew. They take over from here. Do stay on the channel.